I met a Gypsy.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, sweet.
It's crazy. I feel like I'm singing.
You good, Rose? I got some notes here. I went through,
Cool.
made notes, and none of them include you crashing.
Sweet. I don't mind talking about it. It's just like pretty outdated content.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't like.
Are we good, Rose? We're all rolling. Yeah, I mean, I guess like it's funny. So, actually, before we get fully started, I posted like the notes and said, "Guess who it is." Literally everybody said you.
True.
Sweet. I'll just post that up real quick. Yeah, I was like, people won't know who this is, and it was just like Remy.
True. Yeah, he's
like,
been asking me for a while if I was going to do on.
Oh, really?
I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, no, of course.
If the time comes up.
Remy Morton, welcome to Gypsy Tales. We're doing it. Finally, we're doing it.
Stoked to be here. It's been a long time coming.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
So, dude, I've been actually stinging to have that Red Bull, but I was like, I just want to drink it like while we're doing it. So my little story to kick this thing off.
Yeah.
I'm at Farm Jam. The last fight was 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah,
Farm
right before
Jam.
COVID.
Yeah, and I'm on the hill, and I'm watching this dude go down the BMX line with the bucket helmet on, the Renthal bar pad, no shirt, no tan, short shorts, and Vans with long socks. The most stylish motherfucker I've ever seen on two wheels. And I was standing there and I was like, who the fuck is that? And then they're like, that's Remy Morton. And I was like, that's Remy Morton? And I'd fucking heard about you forever off like Johnny and Maddie and so many people. And there was, it was right before like the Red Bull deal. And then I'd heard through people at Red Bull Australia, like Remy. So I'd like, it had just been like bubbling up, this whole Remy Morton thing. And then I was just like watching you going, what the fuck? Turned out to be you. And then we met at Farm Jam.
Yeah.
And, had a pretty fun night at the after party. And I was just like, well, it's fucking true what everyone says. He is about the most stylish rider I've ever seen.
Oh, cheers.
So big rap. There's not really anywhere for you to go from there. But that was my first introduction to you.
Cool. Sounds all right.
So with that, what is style and how does one have such style? Do you think about style and like where it comes from and what it is?
No, I've never really thought about it, to be honest. I've always just ridden my whole life. I like being myself. I think just, yeah, I guess the word style is just being yourself and doing what you want to do, and it kind of everything else follows. And if it looks good, it looks good. If it looks shit, it looks shit. It's kind of like you can choose which one you want. I'd prefer it to look good.
choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
So is it something that you think, because like so I really never had good style on a bike, like BMX, mountain bike, dirt. Like it just wasn't a thing. I was like, I'm just not real talented. But then over the last, probably like since the end of 2019, I actually went to New Zealand and rode at Ben Townley's place.
Yeah.
And then he just was like helping me with some technique shit. And I like harp on all the time about it on the podcast. But my style actually has got a bit better over that time. Right. And it was just one of those things that I just fully thought that you were born with, you know? And I mean, I guess that's because there are guys that go out and they ride and it just looks so easy and so effortless. And I just thought it was something that you could never, I guess, like change or make better.
Yeah,
but
you're kind of born with it.
Yeah, but in the last couple of years of myself, it's just like, realistically, style is just like a certain position on a bike at a certain time. And it looks right.
Yeah, I think I had never cared about it at all. It was never really a worry for me. It seems pretty weird to me that that's kind of how people are starting to know me, as like the guy with a style or whatever, because I just grew up racing and that was always what I tried. I just wanted to go fast and like be a good rider really. But then in the accident that I said I didn't really want to talk about in 2017, pretty much from then I just like had quite a physical block and couldn't really achieve what I wanted to in racing just because my body wasn't all there. So kind of more focused on told myself I wanted to be the best bike rider I could and just worked on more skill and technique. And I guess it's kind of evolved into what I'm doing now. It's kind of a fully different style of riding, but still shows the same aspects of my riding. But yeah.
Yeah, because your style doesn't look that different to when you were racing. So it's like the same. I guess it still looks like you riding a bike, but it's just, I mean, the Sound of Speed clip was just like fucking iconic for style. Like, and I mean, even with that, it was like no fucking chain, no gloves.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. I just learnt from a lot of previous sponsorships and from injuries and everything that the best kind of way to ride is to be yourself. And it kind of went from growing up in BMX and riding BMX and wearing what those riders wear and how you ride that. And then I was like, well, that's what I'm comfy in, and that's what I've been surrounded around my whole life. So it makes sense to ride all of my bikes like that. I don't need to be like two different people.
The racer
just
dude,
be one person and ride a different frame, basically.
Yeah, it's super sick, man. Like you cross like the gamut of bikes even, and it's just like moto and BMX and mountain bike and honestly, I think for me, in terms of all time style on a bike, it's Berriman and you, of like just wheels.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know. I don't know if I'm on that comparison, but Tyler's pretty crazy.
But I really think like you guys are in the same lane now as well in terms of like the career, and you guys are probably two unlikely Red Bull athletes in a way as well, and he gets the deal, goes on to do like incredible shit, and then you got a deal and you've gone on to do incredible shit with it. So it's like, yeah, I feel like the vibes are similar.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't know, I think it's definitely the way modern riding's going, especially with all of this stuff and that's happening at the moment with all the pandemic and all that. It's kind of, it's definitely given a lot of riders kind of a lot more time to focus on their technique and riding, and with the social media aspect of it all, it's like,
yeah,
to me it makes sense that that's how the sport's going at the moment, because it's just a good time to regroup and get good at that kind of thing.
Yeah. So when you say technique, what is the kind of stuff like you're working on at your level, and like what are you thinking about when you're riding?
So for me and my downhill bike, I've definitely changed technique a lot, and I think it's mainly my bike setup. And a lot of people think that I've just ditched my chain, but it's not just a ditched chain. Like, I've actually changed my whole, I've gone to smaller bikes, smaller cranks, the no chain.
Even your bars look pretty narrow.
Yeah, they're not as wide as a lot of people. They're still 780 wide, but I guess I have quite wide shoulders, so like they probably are pretty narrow for my body build.
Yeah, right.
But it's a very small bike. It's kind of like a slope bike, which, I don't know, it makes me focus on my posture and like a bit more trying to copy people like Tyler, to be honest. Like,
yeah, right.
You see the way that he's so centered on the bike and can't just swing off it, and like, because his feet are so central. So like, I've been running, it's a bit of a secret, I haven't really told too many people, but I've been running kids cranks for the last year and a half now.
Yeah.
So they're
and so that just gets you more like this.
Yeah, so they're 135 millimeter long.
Wait, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's, if you watch people that are listening, I guess, if you watch me ride now, you will notice how close my feet are.
Where can we see a video of it? Because I think
probably my Sound of Speed will show it, and it kind of just shows why my knees are so close together, and it helps you with better like.
It keeps your hips like loose,
just your whole body's way more centered, and like for tables or whips or roots, anything, like your knees are close to the top tube. It makes you look tighter, it makes you look cleaner, it feels easier and tighter, and it's just like, yeah, and right. With the whole chainless aspect, there's less pedal drop, so you can you don't get so much flop.
Yeah, right.
So you can see, like in these, my feet are nearly right next to each other.
Yeah, dude. Because okay.
Yeah, so it's like, that's been my biggest kind of trial in the last 2 years that I've been trying to work on my riding to fit my bike better.
Man, it's so cool. I honestly love having these conversations, because even in my own head, for so long, I thought guys that were as good as you, because essentially, like, I'm a professional fan. Like, that's really all I am. Like, that's what this podcast is like me getting paid to be a fan of guys like you that are so fucking good at what you do. And in my head, I always just like, these motherfuckers are just so good and they're so dialed. They don't really have to work on shit anymore. Like, they're not, to me, riding is a project. It's like it's like a life's project.
It is for me too.
Yeah, and that's what's been so cool. I've realized that now. And
it not only goes into like the whole thing, everyone, I don't know. I listened to my friend Ollie, who runs the Fastest Fuck bike page, and he runs all the clothing and stuff. He's been like a massive inspiration for me. Him and Sam and John and Jack, it's their whole little crew, and they've definitely inspired me the most out of anyone, because they were running like it would have been like 8 years ago now. They were running Iron Horse Sundays with 24-inch rear wheel, 26 front, rental moto bars, and 120 mil cranks, like kids cranks, and everyone was like, it's so weird, it's different, it's not like normal.
Yeah.
But now now I look at it and they were so onto it, because the way that biking's going now, and I don't know if I've helped that, but like everyone's just wanting to wear normal clothes. Everyone wants to ride what they want to ride, and it's like everyone's wearing mullet bikes now, like the 2 different wheel size, and all they were trying to do was like ride it more like a motorbike, because that's a way more developed sport, and everyone would laugh at them 10 years ago, and now it's like, wait up, they were like 10 years ahead of you guys. It's
that's
pretty
so sick.
Yeah, and that's definitely changed my whole thoughts on everything, and watching those guys progress to where I want to be, and it's I find it pretty interesting. It's like, I don't know, every day I'm tweaking my bike just a tiny little bit, but it's not in the way that the public will think's cool. They'll look at me like I'm a weirdo, because they're like, why are you running kids cranks and no chain?
But I feel like there's something about you, and I'd say this is what attracts people to you. Like, everybody fucking loves you. And that's a similar thing with Berriman too. Like, I don't want to keep fucking comparing you or whatever, but there's another guy, like, it is very interesting, like the personality type and like the lane that you're in now. It's like your personality with your style, and like everything that you do kind of like pushes you into, that's Remy Morton. Like, that's his lane. He made that, like, that's his deal. And Tyler's the exact same. But I mean,
well, I'm trying to be like him, I guess.
But you go through your Instagram, dude, like you go way back. There's like the fucking dreads kid, and you've always wore different clothes. But you're right, man. Like, there's a point where it's like Remy Morton, the fluoro racer pan dude.
Yeah.
And then it just fucking stops. And it's guys like you that actually do push the culture forward in sport.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing that I learned from those Fast Fuck dudes. I met all those guys like around that time when I had the injury. I had a lot of like sponsorship changes, and throughout those few years I had some pretty bad sponsorship problems, and just like I just realized to myself, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, someone's paying me. Like, I really appreciate all of those guys that helped me get to where I am, but it was more of a mental thing. I was like, why am I riding for this person when I'm just getting like a free shirt or something, you know? Like, it's not the shirt that I would actually buy. Like, I want to wear a nice set of like flogged out cutoffs from Lifeline. Yeah. Not a set of stiff like moto pants when I'm riding downhill bikes, you know? And I kind of went through that phase of like trying to work out all of that stuff, and where just being comfortable on the bike. And I think it's really important too. A lot of people say to me like, yeah, but you're advertising not wearing protection or this and that, like no knee pads and that. And it's like, yeah, but all the guys that are racing the World Cups, they're wearing full fluoro race kits, and you still can't see they're wearing knee pads and that stuff. And then you go to the local bike park and there'll be a kid wearing like a $300-400 kit and still no knee pads.
Yeah.
But you think he's all good because he's wearing it, but he's got like $100 helmet on, and you know, he's been like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like you're looking at those guys as like the influence, and it's like, it's really not safe.
Yeah.
Like, you're just still wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So I went through that stage of like trying to work out why was I actually influencing that, and that's not really where I want to be in bike riding. I always said to my dad that I never wanted to be a competitor in the sport. I want to change the sport. And it made it pretty apparent to me that like after all my accident shit that I wasn't going to change the sport in racing. I wasn't fit. I wasn't going to be Sam Hill. Like, I wasn't at a physical point where I could win a World Cup by 15 seconds. So I then went on to like trying to figure out how I could change the sport, but in my own direction, and bringing the culture and lifestyle into it, and try to educate people what is important in the sport, and what you'll get out of it by being yourself and giving back to people in the ways that actually matter, not just giving a product to someone that they probably don't really care about.
Oh man, yeah.
If that makes sense, you know?
Totally, dude.
So,
totally.
I don't know.
No, it definitely does.
So that's kind of where my whole riding style changed, I guess, when I went through that that stage of thinking.
Yeah. And did you feel like you had to be a certain way?
No, I kind of just like...
Or that you just end up going to like path of least resistance.
I think that what happened was I went through so much crap and got to the point where I got funneled into an event that I really did want to do, but wasn't prepared because I'd been mind manipulated by so much other shit that
like
when I got to that one that I actually really wanted to do, I nearly died. And then I was like, I've just like nearly died for something that I actually want to do because I've so focused on what other people want from me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of like the click where I was like, all right, I'm just going to be myself and I don't really care what anyone thinks. Like, kind of a click where I like even made the decision that I don't care if this like makes me not a professional rider. I just want to be a bike rider and I want to be the person that I've always wanted to be, which is a good rider and nice to people, basically.
And man, like, well, first of all, you're definitely doing that, but it's like you're too unique of a dude. Like you look unique. Like it's unique what you're into. The way that you ride is unique. It's almost like the best marketing plan for, like, if I was the marketing fucking genius and it was like, I'm gonna market, I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool, just do exactly this.
Sweet. Yeah, I don't know. I just like, I think if you're like, if I'm being myself, building the stuff that I want to ride, wearing what I want to wear, that's what I want to encourage, because I think that that'll progress the sport more than anything, because if everyone does that and they will just bring out them true selves and it will actually be like separate lanes of riders.
Yeah.
Rather than like just a bunch of people wearing the same stuff, riding the same stuff in each category.
Well, you think about it like music or films. You know what I mean? Like and fuck, I got so many boys on the World Cup tour like scene, and I know you do too, that are just fucking lords. But it's like they're the Hollywood action movie. Fully, yeah. You know, like they're it's all great looking model, you know, looking dudes, and it's like that's the lane that is. Yeah. But then it's just like there's Pulp Fiction, and you know what I mean. And if you don't if you never watch movies outside of, you know, the fucking main Hollywood blockbuster, it's like, how boring is that? Like you get to watch 100 Transformers a year. Well, it's pretty rare that I actually watch something of riding, to be honest. I don't really like watching riding stuff. I love it, but at the same time, I'd rather watch a music channel and watch like some UK grime show, or I'd rather watch a tattooist do some crazy traditional artwork, or some airbrushing, or some dude building a hot rod. You know, I'd rather see like and learn about the culture of different things, and then I learn aspects of that I can bring into mountain biking or BMX. And like, I think when you're so trapped in the one thing, you don't bring any other shit to the table, kind of like. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's pretty important that you just, I don't know, you just do what you want to do, pretty much. Yeah, and there is so much out there. Like, there's so much great music, and there's so much, you know, great food and places you can travel, and you know, spots that you could ride at that you maybe would never think of, and even other sports. Like, I think I get pretty much like most of my inspiration of riding I learned from skateboarding or snowboarding, to be honest. That's kind of like the way that I want to ride my bike is how I see a snowboarder riding down the mountain. I want to like move my hips and flow and ride and not be on the pedals, you know. I want to just cruise and be fluid with the land, and like it's so going back to the kids crank thing. Yeah. So are you just like, you're not pedaling, or like you'd taken the chain off completely with that pretty much, or? So yeah, I wanted to take my chain off anyway because I wanted to get better at it. All kind of happened because I cracked the shits with my chain snapping one day, and then it kind of carried on from there. I just couldn't be bothered putting it back on. But it then went to like, I decided to keep it off because I started enjoying it, and I wanted to learn how to trail build better. And I have a really bad mental block with judging my speed from crashing in 2017, where I've never trusted myself anymore. Like, it's very, like, I'll admit it, it's very rare you'll see me at the top of a fresh set of jumps and drop in first now. Like, I always let someone else go first, which I don't. Did you used to be like that? I used to be pretty, like, good. Like, I'd be keen as to drop in, and now I've just got this mental thing where I can't bring myself to doing it because I just don't trust myself. Yeah. Which has gotten way better in the last year, because now I've got no chain. I've really, like,
you know, you're going into saying it's like brakeless BMX riders. You like, once you go and you have to commit and you have to get to a point where you trust yourself. So the chainless has helped insanely with like my confidence of gauging speed for jumps and all that kind of side of riding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then from there, I guess my trail building, because that's, I dig more than I ride. So like, I want to be the best builder I can, and if I'm building good shit, I don't want to be pedaling. You know, like
yeah,
like we're on a downhill bike, not a cross country bike.
Yeah, and that would make sense that you would think like the dopest downhill track that you could ride should theoretically be one that you roll from the top and you don't have to pedal.
Exactly. And I think that's like, you hear everyone like Schladming's the sickest track in the world. And it's like, yeah, because you're not pedaling.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And it's not like, I like pedaling when it's on the right bike, but if I'm riding my downhill bike, I don't want to pedal. I don't want to be like coming into a jump pedaling as fast as I can, thinking, am I going to clear this thing, or am I like going too quick or what? You know?
Yeah, dude, I could see the block, dude, like a fucking heavy block of just like judging speed for sure, man.
Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely been a really major part of my riding in the last year, I think, is getting over that mental block, because I've kind of had enough of it. I'm like, this is crap. I want to just trust myself again.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense, and it's only been, you know, the last, you know, couple
of years. So, but I guess in that couple of years, my riding's gone from racing downhill to building massive jumps, like helping Nico at the fest and my own stuff, and it's gotten to the point where I do actually need to be pretty onto it, because if I'm not building it, and say I don't ride it, someone else has the potential to get hurt. And when it gets to that size, you're not talking like a broken arm. It's going to be it's pretty deadly, and I don't want to see my friends go through that kind of thing.
Yeah, that
so
100% makes sense.
Yeah, so yeah.
And so when you've got the so are you riding on your toes a lot, or are you like middle of the foot?
I'm pretty middle of the foot, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, because that's been kind of like the big thing in moto lately, or like over the last couple of years, is guys like riding on their, like basically on their toes, so that you've got like the ankle flexion. True. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was funny, Dean Lucas, we were talking about it when he was here. And because you look at the guys like Loic Bruni and a couple of those dudes, they've got like their cleats like all the way forward, so they're right on their toes, and you'll see like the ankle flexion. Yeah,
I actually ran my cleats as far forward as they go when I raced.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I preferred I could get better like pop in my heel.
Yeah, so that when I started like really working on that on the moto, I found that like I guess the side effect of that was that my hips started being able to like swing and move, and I just like the whole just general stiffness of my body just sort of like went away, like literally just from being on your toes, and you can kind of like it's almost like it lets if you ride like middle, and moto is definitely different to mountain bike, but it's like if you ride on the middle of your boots, then it almost like makes your legs one thing there as opposed to two, and then that when they're locked up, it sort of minimizes like the way that your hips can move. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I've definitely like in the last 6 months, I reckon I've really like noticed on focusing on shoes a bit more, and I've got this new Vans now, which is like the skate model. It's the Burley Pro. Yeah. And that's kind of the best shoe I've like been. That's my only shoe run now.
And so what's the advantages of that?
It's just like it's got the flex of a skate shoe, but it's a little bit stiffer. I guess that pro skater wanted what he wanted in the shoe to make it a bit more, but I've kind of gone for more of now. I used to run like small pins with a grippier shoe. Yeah. Where now I run a slightly slightly less grippy shoe, but way more, way bigger pins, and you get a bit more like kind of what you're saying. I can move my foot around on it a bit more, and it feels like it is towards the front probably a bit more, like from middle of foot towards the front. Yeah, and so when you said that you shorten the cranks too, what I thought is I was like, man, I wonder if that helps the hips as well, because it's like, when your legs are like this, then it's like be harder to move your hips, and when you bring them closer, everything can. That's helped me a crazy amount, because I snapped and dislocated my hip like a few years ago, so I was getting really bad aches in my hip and lower back from crushing some discs as well. Yeah. And by having the more central body weight, like, and having my feet together, it's actually like I get to the end of a day and you'd think you'd be more tired from like pumping and trying to juice everything because you don't have a chain to pedal, but
Yeah.
I'm less tired. Even if I have to scoot here and there, like between stuff, like my body's just in a way better position now that I just feel so much fresher the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's crazy, eh? Like the difference that it can make. And I've found with me personally that I go to the track now and I just don't really care about riding fast. Like it's just not really a big deal. And I can go and I definitely was when I was riding and like racing more seriously. Like I purely just ride for fun now, essentially. Like I'll race, but even that's completely for fun. And it was like I used to care if I was getting past or wasn't riding good, and you know, like it's just a weird fucking headspace to be in, and it wasn't that fun. But what was fun was when I really started doing jiu-jitsu, and I was like, oh, technique, like it can make you better, so much better. Like I always just fully thought moto was just like the fucking sport for dudes that want to send it. And that was it. And like, and I was slow because I was too scared to go fast. Yeah. And what I realized is that it's not that I'm too scared to go fast. Like I'll hold my bike wide open, but when I'm riding a track and I'm hitting bumps and ruts and these turns, my body's not in a position that will make it feel okay to go fast. So then it becomes scary because
you're just holding on.
You're just carrying on.
That same difference was from between mountain bike and BMX, and I think that's when I went back to BMX was like my little like reset button. I was like, all right, now I can just chill and do that side of it.
Yeah. So what brought that on?
What do you mean?
Like going back to BMX?
Well, I don't know. It was actually I grew up racing BMX since I was like 3 years old, and then I stopped when I was about 10. Yeah. And I just liked mountain bikes. I liked being in the forest more and out in the mountains, and I did it with my dad a lot, which was awesome.
Your dad is a G, by the way. Shout out.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And yeah, I stopped riding BMX for like 5 or 6 years, I reckon. I didn't really even touch one. And then as I started getting more into dirt jumping and riding a hardtail, I just started like copping more and more shit from people being like, oh, we'll think more of you if you rode it on a BMX, or like come back on a BMX, or like, there's a big block between the sports there where like it's definitely gotten a lot better in the last couple of years, and I'd kind of like to hope that I've helped that happen. But it's there was a massive like culture clash where it was like, you ride a mountain bike, you're not coming here, sort of thing, like, which I respected, and I knew the exact reasons why they thought that, and I also thought it when it come to me being on BMX. I'd be like, no, you're not coming, you're on.
So what was the reason? Like, what's the thought process?
I think it was just that whole aspect that you're talking about, like where it was just like motos, you're saying it was just like the moto is just send it kind of sport, and I think that's where the BMX kind of got that aspect from the mountain biking a little bit, and they just turn up the jumps with no respect or bring no culture to it, and
not like the digging
and where all that's kind of starting to crossfade in between the sports now, and everyone's realizing, oh, mountain bike's pretty sick for that, or BMX is actually crazy for that, and it's like it's joined the two a lot.
Well, that was one of the cool things about Farm Jam. You got those sessions and like everyone's out there riding and everyone was cheering each other on, and you could see like the reverence that
fully,
like guys like, who was the I feel terrible that I'm spacing on his name. He's a long haired dude on the BMX bike, and like motherfucker just had the best style
on the BMX bike.
BMX. He was at Farm Jam.
It wasn't Cody Gazel on the...
Yes.
He was on the
hardtail. Oh, was he on a hardtail?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought he was on the BMX bike.
But he's on BMX now. I think he copped so much for that trip that he was on a mountain bike that really? Swapped to the BMX.
But like, dude, so his style was just so insane, and like you get like, you were there on the BMX for that event, and you can see guys like Doggo and Brendan Semenuk, like the best dudes in that world, are just like looking at these mountain bike guys, just being like, fuck, their style is so sick. Like everyone was frothing, actually, just based off Farm Jam, I wouldn't have thought there was like a cultural clash,
I think that event also helped a lot. Like there's a few of those events, as well as just like the whole social media side of things that are actually showing how people are and showing their lives a bit more. That's kind of helped that situation. and divided it less. So I think like my first year in New Zealand was the year that I swapped back to BMX because everyone was just kind of like giving it to me the whole time that I was on a tractor riding the jumps, and I needed to swap to the BMX, and so. But I think it's like now that I didn't really find it too harsh ever because I always rode BMX anyway. So it was kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, I should harden up really and actually ride it again. That'd be pretty sick. And like, I still ride my hardtail heaps as well. Like I swap between them, and I think it's just like different jumps. You ride the different bikes.
Yeah, and I think that there's like a vibe and a culture and I guess like a whole. Like for us, and we'll do like the Transmoto event. Yeah, it's an enduro weekend, and you ride with a fucking headlight, and there's so many dudes there that like you just. What are you carrying on about, dog? Oh, what's this dog at? Hang on. I don't know what he's doing. He's done. I don't even remember what I was saying now. There's like a whole different, like you go to Transmoto and it's just full enduro and the vibe's completely different. Then you go to like Moto and Dust Hustle. So like every discipline, every bike you ride, it's got its own vibe and feeling, and I guess like advantages or like reason why you do it. And I feel like BMX just has such like a dope history aspect that goes to it as well.
Fully, yeah. It's the whole package with BMX. It's not just the bike for the jumps. It's like the whole story of it is what makes it.
Yeah, dude. And the fact that, I mean, it's probably like one of the most versatile, I guess it's probably the easiest action sport to get into as well.
Pretty up there, yeah.
Because
it's pretty affordable.
Super affordable. Being able to ride a bicycle is just like a general adult transport need. Yeah. So it's like to forget that there's even sport attached to it. Just like the skill of riding a bicycle is something that you would like just help your life. Yeah. And then, like you said, affordable. So it's probably is, one of the earliest and most like broad action sports in the world.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, I think. It's cool to push. I like as a mountain bike rider to push it for that reason as well, because I think it is like, if you're watching the mountain bike stuff on the internet, like you watch this video, for example, or you watch Crankworks or something, for a lot of kids, it's pretty like unachievable. You see it and you're like, you think they're superheroes, and it's like, well, we were those kids 10 years ago, like, and I do like riding the BMX and just turning up. Like my BMX is just like covered in rust and looks like a piece of crap, but it's a really nice bike, but it doesn't look like it. If you didn't know anything about bikes, you'd be like, what's that piece of shit? Like, and I like that because it shows to people, I think, that it's like, it is just like, oh, he's just doing that, maybe I can do that, and it's a bit more approachable kind of thing.
Dude, it is an important message, man, to kind of get out there, especially to be an athlete that's at your level in the sport, to have that athlete of like, no dude, like ride a rusty piece of shit, like just wear what you wear on at fucking work, like just put a pair of shoes on that you can ride and ride a fucking rusty bike.
Yeah, you're gonna do it. And that's like going back to what you're talking about, the style and stuff. It's why I like that as well. Like, you don't need all this stuff that you brought up thinking you need to have to do that. Like, if you've got the mindset and the skill, or like the mindset to get the skill, you just need to do it. You can do whatever you want in between, or run whatever you want. Like,
it's so true. But man, I was the worst when I was a kid. For like, I needed it. Dude, even fucking Ronan, I was like, do you want this set of gear? He's like, no, I probably won't run it. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I
was that guy too.
I used to want all of it. I want that, like that colorful jersey or those goggles, because like, I don't know, Ken Roxon's wearing them or something, like I want that because it's what you need. And it's like, now I hope that I'm kind of helping people realize that you don't need it. Like, all you need is a bike and a smile, and you're going to be cruising.
Yeah, the vibe's the thing that you need more than anything.
And you just need good surrounding, good mates, and if you've got that, you're probably going to get it done. Like, even if you don't have good tracks, like if you've got the people around you and the right vibe, you're going to build the right stuff, kind of thing.
For sure, dude. And you know what's cool too, man? Like, I always talk about, do you remember Black Levi from Cairns? You ever hear about him? He was ripped on a BMX bike.
I met him. Oh, I didn't meet him. I've seen him ride like 15 years ago, probably.
Yeah, so he was like the kid when I was going to the skate park. Like, he was just killing it.
Yeah.
And he was like a like young black kid, didn't really have much money, and like, man, some days he'd rock up with shoes, some days he'd rock up without shoes, and he'd be doing like fucking crazy shit at the Cairns skate park with no shoes on. Like, and the cool thing is that I guess like in, let's say, downhill or motocross, like you kind of need a good bike to do good. Like, there is a certain...
There is this line, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like if you've got a really good bike and you're dialed in, like you can go fast. But, you know, you would beat Sam Hill if Sam Hill was on the first ever GT with 2 fucking shocks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's a certain line, yeah, for
But
sure.
a BMX bike, that shit really isn't the case. And then the respect that Black Levi had in our town was heavy. Like, you know, he was the heaviest dude. Like, he was a guy that no one gave a fuck that he didn't have like anything. And I mean, he went all over the world and riding his BMX. Like, he ended up making something out of it. But it's like the respect you can get by just being a fucking charger in that sport. And you can be a charger without a lot.
Yeah. No, I think like a lot of my close mates in New Zealand are pretty similar to that as well. They're like, I think it's why we all get along so well. And I think that's something that I really did learn once I moved to New Zealand. A lot of Kiwis are pretty happy with not much. They just have the stuff that they need for their life, I've kind of learned, and they're happy with that. And it's pretty noticeable. I think like if you go to the bike park in Queenstown, probably like more than 70% of the people in the line are probably going to have pretty nice bikes, but like just normal clothes on, you know. They don't really care what anyone thinks, and that's definitely like, I think, a pretty Kiwi attitude to it all. They don't really give a shit what anyone thinks about them. They're just getting the job done, sort of thing. They're going to be running a set of red band gumboots if they need to. They're just like cruising. And like, a pretty prime example was a few years ago. We did like, it was right when I joined Common Style Bikes. And they needed a GoPro running, and they had like one of the French dudes from the office there, and he was following me. I was like, I'll get my mate to come, because he knows the park and he'll be able to follow me, and it'll just be like, he'll do a really good job with this GoPro run. And he turned up and he was wearing a set of Steelies, like a set of work boots, slip-ons that were just flogged, a set of cut-offs that had like all his work measurements and shit on them, and just a ripped shirt and like a spray painted full face. But then he had like a pretty flash Santa Cruz V10. And they were looking at him like, are you sure, Remy? Like, is this guy good? And I was like, yeah, he's really good. Like, he's probably one of the best riders in the country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they were like, oh, I could tell they were pretty on edge. And then we drop in and he was just like on my tail. He hadn't ridden a bike in like 2 months either. He's just on my tail the whole way. We got the sickest run on film. And when they came back we had dinner later on, and they were like, what? Who is that dude? And I was like, yeah, that's why he's badass, because he doesn't care and he's crazy. And that's kind of like, that's how I want to try be as much as I can as well, because it's inspiring. It's like, he's just doing it for himself and he doesn't really care. Dude,
you're fucking so bang on, man. It's the best attitude.
Yeah.
And you said before, like, I wanted to... You know, like, I want to change the sport from a young age. I wanted to change the sport. I knew I couldn't change it in racing.
Yeah.
So what's the headspace around wanting to change the sport?
I don't know.
And when did that start?
It's kind of, I don't know, not in a cocky way, but I've just always wanted to win, and I've always wanted to be the best rider I could. Ever since I was like 4, I don't know why. I was just like, I got pretty angry if I wasn't being the best. And it wasn't for anyone else. It wasn't for sponsors or for the sport, I guess. It was more it's kind of just my mental approach to things. I'd rather be, I think it's a lot that my dad taught me, like always taught me not to half-ass anything, basically. So like, I've always wanted to be the best at drawing I can, or the best at, I don't know, riding, digging, anything. That's pretty much all I do, 3 things, but but I don't know, it's always, I just wanted to be like Sam Hill or Nathan Rennie or those kind of guys that were the leading Aussie dudes back in the day, or Kyle Strait or someone like.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was growing up, the sport was so new, and there were so many people that every time a movie came out, it was like that far ahead, you know, like it jumped in massive steps of progression.
Yeah.
Where then come like 2010 probably, it sort of stalled. And I grew up around that kind of like approach to all the athletes where it was just like boom, boom, boom. Like the sport was so fresh, watching everything change so much that then by the time that most of my riding friends come in now, it's like they've only been around it from the 2010 kind of mark where it's been pretty even. Like the sport's gotten to a point where it's a general kind of consumer level where it's just growing now. Yeah. Whereas like I still want to see it going boom, boom, boom. Like and whether that be winning a race by 10 seconds or building the world's biggest jump or building a different bike, it could be anything, you know, like it's not necessarily doing a major change in the sport in jumping 200 feet. It could be as much as taking your chain off and like changing the direction and opening up a new culture within the sport kind of thing.
Oh, dude, yeah, I'm fucking so about it. I love that headspace and the fact that you're still so young too. It's so rad. Like you got fucking all this time to work too now, you know. A
little bit, not too much. Got to get it done now.
Yeah, but you know, you still do have, you know, you got fucking ages where, it becomes like a project, like a thing that you just work on. It's like, this is going to be my life's work.
Yeah, and I want to leave the sport and not for anyone else, but pretty much myself. Like I want to know that I've helped someone else out along that kind of journey of it. And whether that be like a kid down the street that I can give a set of grips to, or it be a completely new type of bike riding that I've helped develop, which is like my ultimate goal. Yeah. But it's kind of just, I want to keep those leaps happening so that I can look back on riding and be like, I put in my fair share to the dudes that put in their fair share in the early 2000s. Yeah,
dude, for sure.
You know, like you see Sam Hill and you're like, I'm thankful for him. He completely changed the sport. So now it's my time as in my age group that I need to give back to him to show him that we respect what his part was.
Dude, that's so cool, man. Like we, so I'm pretty sure it'll go like Sam Hill then you. Podcast drop wise. So I did,
true.
Yeah, did the podcast with him in WA. Yeah. That motherfucker is just like, he's the G of all G's, dude.
Fully, yeah. Like, I've never had too much to do with him, but I've just always grown up seeing him on TV and on the movies and all of that.
Yeah, no, like, you know, they say like never meet your heroes. Yeah. Fuck that, dude. Meet all the heroes. Yeah. Meet everyone. Because, man, I've got to spend 2 days riding with him and I just like, I don't know how a person, like, he's not doing anything different or not doing any, like, he's not trying to make you feel good. He's not, but you're just around him and you just feel like you just, like, you got energy, you know? You're just like, let's just do something, dude. Like, let's fucking go right
Fully.
now. And he's just that guy. Like, it just, I don't know, maybe it's like someone that just walks the walk so hard that you're around him and you're like, all right, let's fucking walk. Let's go.
Fully, yeah. I think that whole side of things has helped me with the, like, this progression steps that we're saying is like, it's so weird now that all of those people that I was looking up to in the early 2000s, I've kind of just like, I've either done big race trips with them or traveled with them or ridden with them and they're all like friends now. Yeah. So it's crazy. It's like a massive use. Like now it's like, I want to go now because I know all these guys and you get the energy from them and you're like, it's not just like I haven't just seen them. I've actually hung around with them, and now it's like I want to get better than them.
Yeah, nah, for sure.
Or kind of not better, but you know, like
well, it's like pass the torch. You know, like they've got some kind of fire going on inside them that's like let them change the sport, and it's just like you want to fucking get a bit of that shit.
Yeah, you see how sick it is, and you're like, all right, I want some of that.
Yeah, dude. And the cool thing, and I think it sort of goes back to where your head's at, is like Sam wasn't doing anything other than being himself. Yeah. And it's like you talk to him and you learn about the way that he grew up and like the random challenges that he faced, you know, like we're talking about the clips versus flats thing and he's like, man, I just grew up riding on like marbles. He's like, I just couldn't wear clips. I'd fucking rip every pair of pants I ever owned. He's like, I had to be able to put my foot out. He's like, both wheels were sliding my entire fucking childhood. Yeah. So it's just like, even that, you know, it's just like this random thing that was like happened in his life that was, there was no objective
It's
to
saying
change the
it was
sport.
just his little thing, but it completely changed the whole industry.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and it just
pretty
come from
crazy.
like the roads that he used to ride on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that. I think is, and I think it's sort of what I was saying before. You know, like I think from as a fan's perspective, and when you're like a dude that's just like going out and fucking struggling his way down the hill, you think that these guys have something given to them.
Fully, yeah.
But it's not, man. It's just like constantly doing their thing, adapting and overcoming, and like every time there's a setback, then you push through, or you know, you just don't let a setback bother you, like the fact that you can't wear clips.
I think it pretty much like the word that sums it all up is just, it's just passionate. You're like, if you're passionate about something, you're going to get through it, and you're just going to do it in the way that needs to be done. Like no matter what way that be, like you're going to get to the end if you're passionate.
And for sure. And I hope that if there's anybody, because like I kind of wish I heard this when I was young, that it's just like, you don't need all the good shit, and it's like, it's hard for me too. Like I might be Remy Morton that's like fucking the style cat king, but like I work on it. It's real hard. I do it every day. Yeah. And I think that, you know, because you got that, you know, so many people have got the passion, but I just think that it's not communicated enough, that there really isn't a secret sauce. It's like you get what you want.
Oh, fully. And the biggest thing that I've always wanted was, I've never wanted to be a professional. I still don't want to be a professional. I want to be a bike rider. Yeah. And it's like, by saying that, it's not because it's not in any way, but it's like, I don't want to be a professional athlete. I want to be.
Well, you want to be a professional bike rider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, but it's not like so much even professional. It's just, if I'm good at it, the results I hope will follow. And the people around me and my sponsors backing me will all be well, right now they're better than I could have ever dreamt. But like, you know, you'll be surrounded by the right people by just like doing what you think you need to do. Yeah,
for sure. And like you are a professional in the sense of, I mean, obviously like you get paid to ride, but in terms of like when you're a kid, you're a professional. You were working 8 hours a day between building and riding, I'm sure. Yeah. You know, it's like a couple hours here before school, and then like 5 hours after school. It's like you're putting in an 8 hour day since you were, you know, and it's like, there might not have been a professional, like a monetary exchange for that hard work, but it's like, yeah, that's what a professional is.
Yeah,
like
it's a nice little reward at the end. You're like, oh, it's actually like all that stuff that I've battled, and every time I've laid in hospital, it's kind of like coming around now.
Yeah, dude.
It's nice to get some reassurance.
Speaking of that too, I just saw when I was like cruising through some stuff for this, Danny Way posted on Instagram today saying that he got like stem cells in every joint in his body today. And he was saying he was like, it's ironic that to cure pain, you need to go through pain. Yeah. And I'd never thought of it like that, man. But like, you get injured and you experience this crazy pain, and then to come back from an injury, to really come back, you've got to put yourself through sometimes worse pain than what you initially went through to get back.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like I'm weird or something, but like, I don't reckon there's any better feeling than being on the ground just completely destroyed, like, you know, when you're on the ground and you're like, not in like but more of a mental way, like you'll be laying on the ground just completely fucked, like destroyed with broken bones, and you know that usually, well, I'd like to hope most of the time, my recent bad crashes anyway, I'm happy that I'm on the ground, because I know that I've pushed above where my comfort zone is, and I know that I'm changing the sport, hopefully in a progressive way. So when I hit the ground, I'm like, all right, that was actually pretty cool, because even though I'm like dying on the ground right now, I know that I've given it my best, and now I know what to do next time so I don't do this. And like, I had a pretty good example of that just last Sunday. It was like, I was sitting, like, tested this feature that we've just built for a project. I kind of was worried about it working. I've just never built one before, and I've never ridden one before. Rode it, two-wheel cased it, went over the bars, basically fell like 30 feet and wrapped around a tree, and was just like laying there so winded and kind of trying to get my breath back. But I was so pissed off that I was happy, kind of thing. Like, and I was just sitting there like trying to get my breath back, winded, but I was kind of like drowning in blood because I was coughing up a heap of blood from my lungs. And like that like moment of like determination when I was just sitting there like looking at all the blood around me that I just coughed up, I was like, this is kind of where I want to be at to an extent, because you know I know that now I know not what to do in the future. I've done that, and now I've learnt my lesson. I know what I need to do next time to avoid that happening, sort of thing. I've got the shit out of the way.
Dude,
if that makes sense, I don't know.
It does make sense intellectually.
Yeah.
But experientially, it does not make sense to me. Like, I mean, that being said though, it's actually might be a good person to talk to about this. Like, I actually have been crashing a bit lately.
Yeah.
And I normally don't crash that much. And I'm pretty fucking over crashing. But like, even the other day, I went and I was riding that new 125 I got.
Yeah.
And I just had a stupid crash at the end of the day. Bang, hit my shoulder. And it's been like 3 weeks I've been out of ride. And that was probably like one of the first days ever where I crashed, and I knew, I was like, okay, you're definitely not riding for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And but it didn't really fuck with my mood that much. Like, I actually I had the sickest day riding, and I was so pumped.
Yeah.
But I'm a fucking crash averse dude. Like, I just don't. And jumps, like, I'm just not really that down to like really send jumps, because I just don't. I don't know. Fuck, I just don't really want to go through the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I ain't pushing motocross forward by doing that.
Well, it's doing whatever you want to do. Like, you're pushing it in a way that you want to do it. But I guess it's I always had them. Like, I still don't want to crash. I'm definitely not going out wanting to crash. Yeah. And I think it's a big part of why something that I learned from my mate Jack that I was talking about before. Like, and I said in the Matt McDuff podcast as well. I got to the top of the hill one. I think it might have even been on that day we did the GoPro, and he was like, I was just running cutoffs, but it said knee pads. And he's like, dude, why are you running those? I was like, I don't know. Like, he's like, what, are you planning on crashing? I hope not.
That's some Kiwi farmer wisdom, man.
Yeah, and then I kind of backed off the knee pads since then pretty much. I was like, that's good point. I don't want to crash. Like, and it's saying that I guess I've got that mindset now where like I really don't want to crash, but I know that if I do crash, it's probably going to be a worthy point. Like, I probably deserve the crash because I've done something. I've pushed myself too far, or I've like just, I don't know, I'm trying to be too good for myself kind of thing.
It's a heavy, there's always a real heavy moment though when you do decide to do something gnarly. Yeah. And it's like, I haven't got too many of those because like I don't do that much gnarly shit. But I mean, in, you know, the times where I have jumped some pretty big jumps and I like haven't been real confident in myself, and I haven't, like, I don't know, the respect, and that's why I said I'm a professional fan, like the respect I have for guys like you that can sit at the top of some of the roll-ins that you've got to sit at and fucking pull the trigger on some of these jumps is insane to me.
Yeah, I think like with that whole attitude, it's like last Sunday I woke up in the morning and I was saying to my friend, I was like, are you nervous? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty nervous. I kind of know it's going to go two ways. I'm either going to go to hospital or I'm going to ride out. Like, I knew that, and it's kind of gotten to the point now where I know I will have stupid crashes here and there and you'll cop a graze or a broken bone like fully out of the blue. But majority of the time when you are riding the really gnarly stuff where like I run a neck brace full time. If I'm riding like the Fest series jumps, I always run a chest plate now. Yeah. But for the other stuff, like I know that if I crash, I've got bigger stuff on my mind than grazing my knee with a knee pad kind of thing. Like I know I'm pretty much like am guaranteed that I'm probably going to be in hospital if I crash. So it's kind of just a risk. I'd rather be comfortable when I'm not crashing, and then when I do crash, I've probably wrecked something more than.
Yeah, it's funny, man. We did the podcast with Ryan Hughes. Yeah, and he's like fully just said, everyone take your fucking knee braces off. And it's the exact same philosophy. He's like, you planning on fucking crashing or what? Yeah. And he's like, you're going to wear some shit that's going to like make you have a bit of carbon fiber and plastic between you and the bike, and it's going to stop movement in this and this way. And he's like, what? For this idea that like, you know, you're going to crash. He's like, how about you take all the shit off that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, and let's just try and like get in good positions that you're not going to crash in.
Yeah.
And dude, he fucking said it, and I was like, done. I haven't worn knee braces since.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, there is something to it. Like I definitely feel, I feel better. And it's like, I actually have had a couple big crashes and I was fine. And I think that you fucking roll the dice with crash. Like a crash is a crash, man. Like you can get so unlucky on the smallest crash and you can get so lucky on the biggest crash. Yeah, so it's like, fuck, well, really, what are we doing here?
But like, I don't know, growing up, I wore full leg knee pads, elbow pads, chest plate, neck brace my whole life until I was kind of about 16. That's when Dad stopped pushing it. In that he was like, he would not let me ride without elbow pads until I was about 16, and I really appreciate that because I've kind of now I actually know what it is to crash, and I know I can gauge my crashes. Like I know if I'm going to ride a 100-foot jump, that I've got the mindset that I'm probably going to go to hospital anyway, so I don't really care if I get a minor thing because I'm going to be completely destroyed anyway. Yeah. But I've kind of really learned to gauge that from Dad forcing me as a child to run so much protection. So I still like, that's one thing that I get a bit funny about when people will comment on my stuff and be like, you're not like guiding the children well, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but that in a way, like I feel like that's more on the parents than me. Like,
it's not really your job.
Yeah, like I'm being comfortable for my level now, and I always make sure I say back, like, yeah, I do believe you should be running all that stuff because you're learning, you should be wearing it. But now I feel more comfortable without, and I want to be comfortable because I'm putting my life on the line I've got a bigger worry kind of thing. But yeah, for all the kids, I still definitely want to make sure that everyone is wearing their best, and yeah, mainly the parents and the parents' family, friends, and they're onto it with making sure their children are safe in that way.
Yeah, and it's definitely not your job. Like, to some extent, you know, you're in the public.
You're going to guide, you're going to advertise it, I guess, but
yeah, at the same time, it's like, yeah, I'm the one that's sitting on the top of this rolling, about to do this fucking stupid jump, and it's like me that's going to die, so like, how about you let me do what I'm going to do?
I've got a bigger problem on my mind right now than grazing my knee.
Yeah, little Jimmy is probably never going to do what I'm about to do, so like, we're comparing fucking apples and oranges here.
Hopefully he is, but...
Yeah, maybe, hopefully one day, but odds are probably not. So I've been on a big kick lately, or probably like the last few. It's funny. I've been going through some old clips of the podcast for our YouTube, and I was talking to Robbie Madison about his distance jumps and the headspace, and it's something that now it's like very clearly in the forefront of my mind. It's got like a new context in some of like, I guess, more spirituality, like Buddhism, that sort of that like Eastern spirituality and philosophy kind of thing. And the questions that I would ask about, you know, like why I had one day where I rode, I don't know if have you been to Cairns to mountain bike much? Have you ever rode slipperies?
Yep.
You know how fucking tight and rooty and like gnarly that
and
track
wait
is?
a while and everything.
Oh, so I rode that track one day, wet, like morning, fucking
as slippery as it could be.
Oh, like it was hectic. And I rode there with my Uncle Glenn, and we got to the bottom, and it was like and now like I can look back at it completely different with like this framework attached to it. Yeah. And but I got to the bottom of this trail and I was like, holy fuck, man, like I was not there then. Like I was almost like watching myself ride, but that shit was coming at me so quick that I dipped out. Like I checked out.
That is one of the gnarly tracks I've ever ridden, I think.
Yeah, really?
It's pretty loose. Yeah,
it was fucking wild, eh? But yeah, I really like I could actually notice. I was like, you went away for a while. Yeah, like you were watching you ride the bike. There wasn't really a lot of decision making going down, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then, you know, as I really got interested in that experience, and it only kind of come to mind recently when I was going through the Robbie stuff, is I was sort of asking the same questions just without that sort of framework around it of, you know, like the Eastern philosophy kind of deal. But it's like, you know, basically that experience that I had would be, you know, the voice in my head, or the voice that you think is the one making the decisions in your life. Like, I'm going to go here today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like that thing, that's the voice that gives you I'm going to go to the hospital today. I'm either, you know what I mean? I'm either going to do this or this, or like this could happen. That's the voice. And so I wonder now, like, it's been a thing I've been really thinking about is with guys like you that are just like got these heavy moments where, you know, there is a line, like you said, where there's a no back out line. Yeah. And it's like, what have you got to do to pass that no back out line?
Yeah, I think like even last night I had one of those where I was riding and I just felt really fatigued from a big week of filming, and I kind of, it was one thing that I did learn a lot from that loose vest accident, that when I want to stop riding now, or if I don't like a jump, I'm going to stop riding. I don't really like, if I have that questioning thought in my head, I just couldn't be bothered with it. Like,
just
I'm like, all right, I'm just going to stop, and it's just a better option. I kind of trust myself on that now.
Yeah.
But I've definitely had some pretty gnarly ones. Like loose vest last into 2019, when I went back, I went back to my hotel room and I had to chill out for a bit. I kind of like told myself that day, it's so weird to say now, but I had it so strong in my head that I didn't care if I died that day. I was going to ride. Like, and that was the kind of mindset I had, I think, because I had such a gnarly crash earlier there. I was like, I don't give a fuck if I die today. I'm riding this course, and it's just like my self-satisfaction that I know I've tried.
Yeah.
and that's about the gnarliest experience I've had of that, where I've been like, nothing's stopping me right now, like this is it kind of thing. But then there's ones like yesterday where it was like, oh, my lungs are a bit sore, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah.
and I've got no determination. Like, oh, I'm just chilling today, I couldn't be bothered.
And do you ever experience that sort of thing where like that voice is just gone for a while and then you kind of snap back, you're like, oh fuck.
Usually when I get fully in the zone, I'm like, there'll be that voice where like before a session, like that one for example, where I was like, I didn't care about anything today, like this is happening, and it was just like nothing for 3 hours, and then at the end I was like, oh, that was sick. Really? Yeah, it's just like it just disappears, and it's, I always ride with music now. I find that really helps as well. I can kind of zone out and just like, I just sing along more than think about actual important shit. Yeah. Can't hear my bike or anything. I'm just like, oh, this is a nice song.
Well, that like, I mean, people would call it like a flow state or the zone. And it's funny. I mean, I've read all the books on that like particular state. And I think people are looking at, I mean, the more like neuroscientific way of looking at it is that, you know, the prefrontal cortex shuts down and then you're running. It's more just like the motor sensors of your body and everything quiets. But yeah, I think there is an element where it's like you just stop having the conversation with yourself. Yeah. And there's ways that you get forced into it, like it's slippery. Fully. Like I think that the self, like the conversation with yourself, it just can't go quick enough. No, like you're going too fast.
And you start thinking about so much that you're like, you overdo it and then you crash. Yeah. And you're like, oh. Yeah. But my head is against the tree and it's not good.
Well, it's crazy, dude. I'm just going to let this fucking dog in because he keeps crying. He's been a real pain today. I'm trying to, like, make him sit in that bed, right? Wait. Get in your bed. Get in your bed. Come on. Fuck, wait. Crazy story. Get in your bed. Go on. In your bed. Stay there. Crazy story. He had a fucking drug overdose yesterday.
The dog?
Yeah.
True.
My dog he walked, like, because he just walks downstairs to piss.
Yeah.
At my apartment. So he just does his own thing, like the door stays open. He's gone downstairs and he's fucking eaten something, like, I don't know what the deal is, dude. He comes back upstairs and like half an hour later, my fucking housemate is like, walks past my room and he's like, dude, Searle's alright? And I would look back at him and he's just like fucking cooked, dude. And then anyway, so I just like freaked out, took him to the hospital. He was in hospital all last night and they were like, man, true. Yeah, they were like, dude, this dog is fucked up. And he took like a legit piss test, like a drug piss test that you do for like, because they said it's common all the time that dogs eat like their owner's weed. Yeah. And I was like, well, there's no way, like it wouldn't have been from here. And but yeah, so he pissed on this fucking thing and it was like, it tested positive for like opiates, like cocaine, amphetamines, like literally everything. So like, I don't know what the fuck went down when that dog went downstairs, but he was fucked up. So
it's pretty loose.
Dude, it was great. It was crazy. I just going back this morning, so that's why normally we don't really hear much out of him, but
He's just on a crazy come down at the moment.
He had a fucking bender, dude. But yeah, anyway, when I was talking to Sam, we were talking about like that zone flow state kind of deal.
Yeah.
And he reckons he had 8 races in his whole career where like there wasn't a sound in his head. It was literally just like the track, the wheels, the chain, the roots, the 8 times in his career.
I reckon I'm up to about 3 of like fully, and if you ask my dad, he would probably be able to tell you all 3 of those times.
Really?
Because he reckons it's just like I get this look in my eye where I just like look straight through people, and I know the exact thing that he's talking about. I think I just get so in the zone that it's like a force fields around me. Yeah, I can't like. Yeah, it happened at Cairns World Cup a few years ago. I just like
in 18.
Yeah, and no, it would have been
16.
16. Yeah. Last year of juniors, and I had it there, and I remember like the whole day. I told Dad in the morning, I was like, I'm winning today.
Really?
And I just like didn't really talk to anyone the whole day. As soon as I finished the race, it was like, boom, all good. But I don't know what, I can't remember anything within that day other than like every single route on my race run. I just remember like the noises, but that's it pretty much. It's weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so fucking sick.
It's only a few times, that it's happened, but it's pretty like every now and then I'll get like a half-assed attempt at it where I'm like pretty in the zone, but it's not like the full-blown like I'm there for one reason kind of thing.
Dude, it's been honestly like I got to it through I don't want to over talk about it on here because I've spoken about it heaps, but like I kind of just had this weird thing with like in my ego around the podcast when I was first starting, and I was like, I hope people don't think I'm doing this because I want to be famous or I want to be cool. Like, this is just the sickest job. Like, I really just want to do this job. And that whole thing fucked with me, dude. And it was like really in my way. It stopped me from really being myself, and it fucked with me to the point where I kind of had like a bit of a breakdown where I was just like, not in a negative way, but mentally I just hit like the floor. Yeah. Where I was like, wait, so if I am scared of having an ego, or if I don't want people, if I'm actively trying to make it look like I don't have an ego, isn't that having an ego? And then I remember just being like floored by it. And then I'd read all these books on like meditation and flow states and all that shit. And then I reread a book on meditation, and that whole like conversation, voice in your head, it all just kind of clicked. And that it's funny you talking about that face you make. Like, dude, when I do jiu-jitsu, there's fucking photos of me doing jiu-jitsu where I look like a fucking murderer. Yeah, like I look
looking straight through people,
just dead face, bro. And like in competitions, especially like when I've gone and done competition roles, like I could not fucking tell you anything other than I won. That's it. I'm like, I won by submission. That's all. Yeah. I remember the dude tapping and getting up, and that's it. But it's just like gone. It's fucking crazy. And now, so like I'll meditate every day, and I'll like try and look through that. I'll try and just get like real small glimpses of that, like the zone or wherever where there's no voice. And like you get a bit of a physical shift in your body. It almost feels like imagine, so you're like walking, you've got someone, they're like, all right, Remy, we're guiding you out, we're gonna like show you this like crazy view, and then you're like, okay, and they're like, you can't look down, and then you walk out, and then they're like, there's the view, now look down, and the glass is clear, and you're like 50 stories up. You get like that feeling. So that's kind of like the feeling. And now whenever I just ride moto or whenever I do anything, I'm trying to just like get that little feeling and just like remind myself, I'm like, there doesn't need to be a voice here. Like all the best shit happens when there's no voice here. And it's like it's a bit of a catch-22 because it's like you're reminding yourself with a conversation in your head. Am I meant to be talking to myself? Yeah. So but then you just get over and over, you just get easier where you don't have to have the full conversation. You can just like it's like when like a bug hits the windscreen of a car, and you can shift your focus to like the bug, or you can look straight through the bug into so it's like
when you get a bit of dirt floating around your goggles.
So it's just like that perspective change. So now when I'm riding, I just try and have like that perspective change. Just it's like to try and bring myself into that moment, and then I just go out and then like
it's released. And
then nothing else matters because I'm kind of like, for a couple laps I'm occupied with just trying to like stop that conversation, have that little glimpse, and then after a couple laps you're like, oh fuck, how many? I don't even know how many laps I've done, and
Yeah.
you kind of got there. So it's like it's been really on my mind lately because I think that's the state we're all trying to get to.
Fully.
You know, we've all been obsessed with this state our whole life.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us really have like a detailed framework of like what it actually is. I think like flow has been the best way that it's been explained, but that's just like this random scientific term of a thing you think's happening in your body. It's not like a mental state that you like a switch you can turn on and off.
I think a massive mental one for me, like through a similar process, was 2 years ago now. Like when I went back to Loose Fest and I won it, and then I went to Backwoods and had a really good time there, and I was blown away that I was riding like I was on the star ramp next to like Sam Oak, Emil Johansson, Eric Fedko, and like Logan Peterson or Nikolai Rogak, and I was like, what am I doing here, kind of thing. Like, this is insane. Yeah. And it just snowballed on and on and on to the point where I got my Red Bull helmet. And then I was like, it went so far that like that whole time period, I wasn't even thinking. It was just like snowballing. Like everything I ever wanted just happened. And then I got the Red Bull helmet, and then we went into lockdown the next week. And I was like, I'm actually like, at the time I was like so off it because I was like, fire, I worked my whole life wanting this. Like this has been my ultimate goal in life of riding. And now it's just been like shut down. And it was now I look back and I think that lockdown was the best thing that ever happened because for the first week, I had so many thoughts in my head and all those voices kept catching up to me. And I started really started questioning myself. I was like, everything I've really wanted to achieve has happened now.
Now what?
What do I actually do now, kind of thing? I was like, I don't actually like this kind of where I wanted to be in riding. Like I want to be more, but I was like, good wake up calls. Like far out. This has happened. What do I do next? And then like for lockdown, I moved into a cabin, and that's where I currently live. I've been there since now, and it's like
go on Remy's Instagram. There's a dope picture.
Yeah, there's a little
cabin,
photo of it.
I love that.
It's pretty much like the size of this table.
It's so sick.
It's
Yeah, we'll let him find it.
Yeah, there it is there. It's
there's a couple dope pictures.
It's really small. And that's Fox the dog in front.
No.
And
go down. There's another one that's got a few different photos in it. I was looking at before.
But yeah, I was pretty much like locked in that for all of lockdown. And the lockdown in New Zealand was really gnarly. It had
keep going.
You know, we couldn't leave home.
It was gnarly.
We were like, if you went out on the road, you felt like a criminal. That was last winter. And like, I've got a TV now, but that whole time I had no TV. I had Wi-Fi, but I didn't have a laptop or anything.
You do no TV?
I still have like, I just have like a Netflix thing on it now, but I did a couple of years without a TV, probably like 6 years. Yeah.
So fucking good, eh?
Yeah.
I'm like 2 years in with no TV.
It's pretty good.
I don't think I'll ever put a TV in my house again. It was fun. I've actually been thinking about it. Maybe like a cinema room. Like where it's like
OG.
dedicated and it's like you go there to do it, but then you close the fucking door. Yeah. So it's not just like this thing you can walk in and turn it on and you got a fucking... Man, I honestly... so I borrowed a van off Cricks. My one's getting service and the fucking radio come on and there was an ad and I tripped out. I was like bro... I don't have ads. I got YouTube Premium. Yeah. YouTube's pretty much the only thing I watch.
Yeah.
I don't ever listen to the radio and I don't watch the TV. I have not seen a fucking ad. Seen or heard
I haven't had radio in a long time.
Dude, it tripped me out, man. Yeah. And I was like, holy fuck. I've probably saved myself listening to thousands of ads in these last few years. Yeah. And my life is fucking way better because of it. There's so much room in your head for other shit.
Well, I think that's what happened was I was like in this little cabin, no TV, no laptop, had my phone, but there's only so much you can do on your phone. And I stocked up on a few drawing books and notepads and stuff. And I just go for a walk every morning, go sit on the beach, do a little pedal, but not much. And then I was just digging basically. I was just digging and drawing basically the whole 4 weeks. And I watched this interview that my friend Ollie sent me at the start, and it was a Skepta interview that
Skepta's a G.
Yeah, and it was a Red Bull music house video or something. And he's talking about all this stuff and culture and grime music and how it's all evolved, and was pretty crazy. I was just relating all of it. Whenever he referenced like music, nearly the exact same thing was happening in writing at this time, like 2 years ago. In like the way that people are signing contracts and deals and to labels and all that stuff. And like instead of labels, it's a bike brand or something.
Yeah.
So I was trying to compare all of that. Like in my head, I just signed the biggest contract of my life. So I was trying to work out like, what is this kind of like, where do I go from here? So I was just like listening to a lot of things, just trying to get some inspiration. And the biggest thing that stood out in that, which has pretty much like changed my perception on everything in life, was this one kind of line that he says. He's like, you know, you're gonna be so different, or he's been so different that everyone just looks at him like he's weird. Yeah. And then like, oh, that's Skepta. And then they're like, oh yeah, he's just doing something different, to like, oh, that's kind of like, all right, to like, my man is hard.
Yeah.
And they're like, it goes through the stages of like this. And then I took that back to like watching Lords of Dogtown. Yeah. And you watch what they're doing in the 70s and the skate change of like wearing tight clothes, figure skating and all that kind of crap, to bowl skating. And I took like those two and then put it to mountain biking. The mountain biking is in the exact same one. And it just clicked. It was like all of the talk in my head was like, far out, mountain biking is pretty much what Lords of Dogtown was in the 1970s. And we're in the same progression stage now. We're 20 years into the sport or whatever. And I was like, that's like what it is. They just wanted to be badass skaters, and they did it, and they didn't care what anyone else said. And it's what Skepta said about starting his own label and just doing like, there's only so far that you can have that headspace where you're questioning yourself and people are questioning you, and they're like, yeah, you're like, like for a while there, I was like, is it weird that I'm just wearing normal clothes, or is it weird that I'm not running a chain and not racing and not doing events? I'm just riding and filming. And I was like, really, yeah, questioning myself about that. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, if I try to get to this next stage of like where people actually start guessing what I'm doing rather than thinking I'm weird, and then it starts the progression. And I feel like now it's like a year's going on and it's starting to get to the point where people are like, well, Remy's actually done that now. And it all came from like having that month of just thinking in my head and kind of resolving all those issues in the little cabin. It was pretty weird, eh?
Dude, for sure, man. Like, I mean, yeah, I can totally relate. Like, I went through like a breakup at the kind of towards the end of 2019, and then I was just like, I was in this weird place where I'd never really, like, it kind of just hit me where I just never really been alone. Yeah. And I was just like, fuck, I really feel, I don't know why, but I think I kind of got some inspiration from reading about these like monks or people that would go on these retreats. And dude, there's literally monks that will sit in a cave for like 27 years. Yeah. And like someone brings them rice and water, and then that's it. Like they just literally sit in this cave. And it was just, I don't know, I just kind of took a bit of inspiration from that. It's like, maybe there is some real merit to being alone. Like I never really saw the point of being alone. Yeah. In a way, I was like, well, what's the fucking point? Like, if you could be around cool people that you like, then be around cool people that you like. Fully. And that's so true. But there is like a balance that...
There's definitely a balance, I think.
Yeah. And if you can't be okay with being alone, then it's almost like the people around, they're just a crutch that you're leaning on. Like, you can't walk on your own. Like, you got to lean on these good people. And so I just sort of saw some merit in that, and I just really studied. Like, I read a fuckload of books on these different topics. I did a lot of just like meditation, where it was just like nothing crazy, not super long, but just that process of like looking at myself, looking at my thoughts, seeing what come up, when they come up, like looking at even why they come. Like, I don't know where that come from. Like, I didn't want to think that. I didn't sign up for that particular thought. Like, any negative thought that's in your head that, you know, like, oh, you don't do events, Remy. It's like, you obviously didn't want to think that. Yeah. Like, if you could have chose, if that.
Yeah, I don't want that thought in my head.
Yeah, if there was like a gate that, or like, you're going to crash on this one, Remy. If there was a gate and you could like fucking not let that in, then you just wouldn't. Yeah. But we don't really get that choice, you know? Yeah. So then I sort of was like, I was just sitting there in that kind of mindset. And dude, you're right, man. Like, at one line or one piece of text or, you know, something can just like shift the perspective away from that old way of
Fully.
thinking, and it's almost like it just breaks the flow of wherever those negative thoughts come from. Like if you do enough work, or if you listen, or if you think about things enough, or if you I guess like strive to get enough wisdom around a certain topic, it's like that sort of is how you like shut that gate in a way.
Fully, I think, and it goes for me back to like dad always just being so backing and telling me what to do. But like in that Skepta interview, he talks about the stuff that I just mentioned, and then he's like, pretty much the strongest words I've ever heard, which I actually got tattooed on me now after hearing that, was he's like, fuck the scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're brought up believing so much stuff within the scene, and that goes to any situation, any sport.
For
like,
sure, man.
And you're like, what even is the scene at the end of the day? The scene is just an image. It's just a bunch of people trying to be like each other. It's like, what even is that, you know? Like, let's build the community. You're still helping everyone out. Everyone, if not more people, are involved in the community, except you're all individuals. Like, you're gonna, you can just be yourself and be an individual and advertise yourself as an individual, and by doing that, you're gonna build a whole community of rad people rather than a whole scene of people trying to be the same as each other.
Yeah, and then like comparing to each other, and then it becomes like it's built on like weird values.
That the whole thing just struck me so hard, because I was like, well, it goes back to everything. It's like it goes back to bullying and like people judging each other, and like you turn up and you go to a race and you'll see kids and they'll be like, oh, nice kit, like being smart.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that kid can't afford that. Like, how is it even developed into the point where you can rip someone out because he's wearing a fluoro Troy Lee kit compared to someone wearing a set of clothes from Kmart? Like, it's just like build the community and spread the love within that, and like just like fuck everything else off. Just be. It doesn't need to be a scene. It needs to be a group of people having a lot of fun together.
Dude, it's so true, man. And I'll tell you as well that this podcast really got fun for me when I embraced the community.
Yeah.
There was a weird, I guess I just didn't have experience. I've never done anything like this before, you know? Yeah. And there was a point where I was like, at some point it's probably going to get too big to manage that side of thing. Like, I won't be able to reply to all the DMs. I won't. And I was just thinking, like, so far down the fucking track. So I like really didn't put that much effort into like replying to people. I didn't really try and create like events or things that everyone was a part of. It was just doing interviews. Yeah. But it was COVID where I was like, fuck, people are going to like need something to, to be a part of. And that's that's a good thing. And then I really like tried to lean into that side of it. And then as soon as I did, I was like, this is like the fucking whole point. Yeah. You're like, this is what it's all about, really. Yeah. and it's what you said. It's a community, It's not about, it's not like a scene or like a clique or whatever. It's just like, it's literally just a community of people. Build yourself and be yourself into the individual you want to be. And by being an individual, it'll attract others, and it'll probably attract the people you want around you, and thin those out that you don't want around you, kind of thing. Yeah, definitely, dude. Well, that's what's cool about Queenstown. Like, it really seems like when I was there for Farm Jam, that it was like a really rad community of people. Pretty much why I moved there, yeah. For me, it's like, I love living there anyway because it's got every activity that I want to do. You can ride, you can snowboard, you can hike, you can swim, you can go wakeboarding, every fun thing you can do in one day. But it kind of all went back on, like, I kind of had to make a decision. Do I actually want to live there or just go there for summers? And I kind of made the decision. I was like, I should live there. It makes sense as like the rider I want to be. It's so good for networking and meeting people that like everyone's attracted to there for the community. Like the club, the mountain bike club, there's insane how much they give back to the community. It's like, so is all of our groups of mates. Everyone does big group rides. It's all organized whenever you want to do it, like big dig sessions. And I think it's pretty insane that it's like there's so many individuals from around the world that have ended up there for the same reason. Yeah, it's like a commune. Yeah, fully. And it's like a commune that you just meet. Like, it's crazy. I've met pretty much all of my idols
and now they're friends because of being in that place. It's an insane thing to think about.
And it must be a very so like there's places that I've been, like I've traveled to a lot of places, and there's places that have a vibe.
Yeah.
And that vibe automatically like just sprinkles some shit on you.
Yeah.
And then it makes you want to do shit. And New York City, like unless you're a douche that's got a bad attitude, like when you get off the plane at New York and then you get into the city, there's a fucking vibe of a city that just really it sprinkles some dust on you and it makes you want to do some shit.
Fully.
And fucking Queenstown is the exact same, dude.
Yeah.
Like the first day I got there, it was like me, Berriman and Fabry, and we all like we made the dude stop, like the taxi driver. We were on the way up to the Red Bull house, and we stopped and just looked over the lake, and it was just like, we are fucking on, boys.
Yeah, yeah. There's energy.
Yeah, there was that same fucking vibe that I got, and
Yeah.
then it's like it makes sense. Like you're kind of saying that exact same thing.
Yeah, like you wake up in the morning and there's pretty much no way you're gonna have a boring day, even if you do decide to chill for half the day, or you go into work or anything. Like it's gonna be a pretty insane day most times. Like, and you can make what you want to. If you want to have the biggest day of your life, whether it be on the bike or like in town, you can do that if you want.
Yeah,
The options are pretty like on for whatever you want to make of it.
and so how did the cabin come about?
The cabin, basically, I moved to Queenstown pretty much when I was 15. Left school, lived in a lot of share houses. Like one of the main share houses we were in, there was probably like 12, 13 people in a little 2-3 bedroom place. Like lived in a hallway for a year, lived in a lounge room for 2 summers, lived in a tent for 1 summer in the backyard. And I just kind of went, places were getting better, but rentals are pretty like, well, before COVID, they were on crazy demand. Like it's so hard to get a room. And I just, basically it was just in big share houses my whole time, and for like 6-7 years basically. And I kind of just,
You get over it.
yeah, when I knew Red Bull was happening and when I kind of found that out, I was like, I need to get my shit together and I need to live by myself and really focus on being the rider and person that I want to be. And I don't want to get like, it was nothing against anyone, but it was like, I've just worked forever for this, and now I feel like I just want to focus for a bit and be around myself and do what I can do to kind of like make myself happy now. And I was living in a little share house right on the waterfront, which was insane, with a few snowboard dudes, and it was pretty refreshing living with them because they had nothing to do with riding. So it was like I quite liked coming home and having different things to talk about, and yeah, it was pretty good vibe. And then I heard lockdown was coming. I was like, fire, if I live here in lockdown, like it's all good for general life. It was a pretty central spot, but there was not a single thing I liked there in terms of bike riding.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just walk into the bush and go digging. I couldn't even really pedal anywhere. There was no tracks really that close. So I was just keeping an eye out. Like, I wonder if there's anything. And then all of a sudden I got tagged by a friend on Facebook, and they're like, this Airbnb marriage retreat is coming up. It's like a little getaway place, I guess, for like honeymoons and shit.
Wow.
And I saw it and just went and looked at it the next day. And this was on like a Monday, and the lockdown was happening on Wednesday. Went and looked at it, moved in the next day.
Fuck.
And then I ended up paying, like, because I gave my current landlord notice. I paid them like an extra 2 months worth of rent or something. I just paid them up front. I was like, yeah, here you go. Like, here's the money.
Man.
Like, I don't want to like fuck you over, but I can't be here for this. Like, it's gonna destroy me if I'm in this house.
Yeah.
So then I went out there, and the landlord's super cool. They're into the trail building and a lot to do with the mountain bike club and all of that, riding and stuff. So they kind of, I think, knew what they were in for with me and how I like stuff, and pretty much just told me it was my house. Like, do what I want with it, pay rent obviously, but do, like, you can make it yours kind of thing. So
That's so sick.
it was quite a nice touch. Like, it's the first time ever that since I left home when I was 15, that I feel like I'm going home to a place now, not just a rental house. Like, I know when I get home, like, my kettle's going to be sitting there. My bolt that I left on the workbench for my moto is going to be sitting there still. Or like, it's quite nice knowing that, like, it's it's my little house kind of thing.
Yeah, dude, it's so sick. And so we got the photo up on the screen. So what? Go across, like swipe in the little gallery there, Romes.
That's in my backyard.
Oh, that's so sick, dude.
Just on a snow day.
And then that there.
So
that says everything.
Yeah, there's a few things in that photo. It's pretty much
that's Remy Morton in a photo.
Pretty much.
There's some VB. There's a Loose Fest poster.
There's my Loose Fest frame.
Is that the one that you crashed on?
No, that's the one that I won on.
Yeah. All the Red Bull hats. Looks like a cup of tea.
And there's a NASCAR down in the bottom corner, a Hot Wheels NASCAR. I love like hot rods and cars and artwork. So that's kind of like a little part of that.
There's a lot of Remy going on there.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, if you look into anything in my life, it's pretty much going to be bikes, digging, artwork, and hot rods.
Yeah, it's easy. Simple.
Yeah.
It's simple and dope.
And like artwork is anything from drawing to music. It's like just, that kind of culture of it.
Yeah, no, dude. I think that you said something before that maybe we'll touch on before we get into all the cabin, but you was like, okay, I need to go and be the writer and the person that I want to be.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking funny that you say that, because I just don't think you can be like, I think at the very core of every endeavor that you take on in life, so like you want to be a good writer, okay, dude, well, you got to be like a real good person. Like, you know what I mean? I think that the people that do really well prioritize being a really good person. Yeah. And that was another thing that I really took from Sam, is like, he's winning all these world titles. Like, he goes and does the enduro, wins 3 in a row. Yeah. While being like, he's just really trying to be like a fucking good dad. Yeah. And a real good husband. For sure. And it's like, you see this correlation between people that like really excel at life. Yeah. And really excel at their sport or their business or whatever it is. And it starts with them being like a fucking dope person and actively like prioritizing that as much as writing, Yeah,
I think I still try to be as social as I can, and I'm still trying to do stuff. But I guess from saying that, like, I just was going through a weird headspace and wanted to be like, I was like, all right, I need to like kind of work towards all this. It's definitely going to be a pretty antisocial month anyway. So I was like, I'm just going to go live by myself and do that and focus for a month, rather than more than likely being in a share house. Like, you're probably just going to get on the piss and fuck around all day, Like, that was pretty much the general sort of thing that was going on in a lot of the houses. So I was like, if I go do this, I can kind of prioritize and think about what's going to be important for me in the next year, and I can go back to doing that, whatever's going on. But for right now, I kind of saw it as a good opportunity that I was not going to miss out on anything. If anything, I was just going to gain kind of knowledge in my own self, I guess.
Yeah. And so what was your, did you get into like a bit of a daily routine throughout that time, or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I want to hear it.
Pretty chill. It was pretty much like my ideal lifestyle, I guess.
Doesn't take much, eh?
No, I woke up, cooked breakfast, had a cup of coffee.
Brekkie?
I went for a nice kind of like, I was trying to nail the breakfast burritos for that month.
Yeah, okay.
So it was kind of breakfast burritos or porridge was kind of my two.
I don't mind porridge.
Yeah, it was kind of my two things I was really trying to dial in.
Oat. What are we running?
Pretty much milk and oats. Yeah, pretty basic. Bit of brown sugar, some salt.
Oh, unreal.
Yeah. And that was pretty basic. I just do that. Then I'd go for a little pedal, do like probably a 10K road ride.
Oh, yeah.
Not much, but just like enough to keep moving. Yeah. Then I'd go for a swim. I'd go lay on the beach and sunbake for 2 hours. And then I'd go, I was partnering up with one of my old bosses, Tom, and his partner, Joe. So that was kind of like our little bubble. So I'd go see them in the afternoon, and we just hang out and muck around his backyard and ride our trials bikes and dig some jumps and stuff. So it kind of like got like a nice, fully refreshing balance of like not having a schedule, but still got my daily riding and digging in.
Yeah, that's so sick.
Which was pretty good.
And so what bikes do you own? Like, what's the quiver? Because I'm starting to see the value of having a quiver.
Yeah, pretty wide, eh? I've got 2 quivers. I've got one here in Australia.
Oh, okay.
As well as one in New Zealand.
Do you have a moto here?
Nah, I don't.
Do you like?
Dad's got a spare one, but
I got a spare one too.
true.
Do you want to go for a moto?
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
We should do.
I'm
that.
not too good on the big bikes, but
That's all right.
Keen
Just
to
a
go.
1-2. I got a 125 there for you.
yeah, that'd be sick.
All right. Anyway, sorry. Continue. Aussie quiver.
Yeah, well, the Aussie Quiver is pretty outdated. It's kind of stuff that I've held on to. A lot of old race bikes or old slope bikes and stuff. It's still all good, but it's kind of, in the last 2 years especially, it's gotten pretty outdated. But my New Zealand Quiver's definitely grown in the last year because I think a lot because of no traveling. I've been like, all right, I'm kind of
Got to have
bored.
some fun here.
Yeah, so currently got start off with the oldest one. It's a 1972 Honda Mini Trail Z50A.
Perfect.
That I've been rebuilding for the last kind of year and a half.
Have you any photos of that on there?
Nah, I don't think so. I've kept that one pretty low key.
On the DL.
Yeah. But I got that. I've got an XR50.
Yeah.
That's kind of pit bike spec, I guess. Got an XR100.
That's one of my next purchases.
Yeah, that's probably one of the better things you'll ever buy.
What year is it?
I got the 2013, so CRF 100, but it's the last year they made them.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of, I got pretty lucky. It just popped up and it was real fresh. I was pretty stoked on that.
Sick.
And then I've got a Honda CT70.
Yeah.
Which is an old Dax.
Yeah.
A gas 250 trials bike.
Fuck
which is probably one of my more favorite kind of bits of equipment I own. That's pretty used one. Yeah, that's probably like my most.
That's big in New Zealand, eh?
Yeah.
A bunch of boys are
It just suits the terrain, you know. We've got like a lot of steep hills, especially where we are in Queenstown. So there's a lot of single track riding and a lot of it's on private property, but it suits it more than a dirt bike. The dirt bikes are a bit big for how steep the hills and stuff are, in my opinion. Yeah, so that covers the motos. There's like 5 motorbikes.
That's sick.
And then in the mountain bike BMX, I've got my old FBM Steadfast BMX. I've got my new one, which is a custom that I got made from a dude called Dutch Bikes out of the US. And then I've got my hardtail clunker, which is like an old 90s Trek.
Yeah, sick.
Got my downhill bike. I've got kind of a slope bike, e-bike. And I think that's it.
That's a dope quiver.
Yeah, so there's probably there's too many bikes for one person really, but it's pretty much like a bike for every situation.
Yeah, dude, it's the move.
Yeah, which is I think that goes back to like I don't really want to be like, I kind of decided I don't really want to be anything in biking. I don't want to be just a downhill rider. I want to be a bike rider. And it's like, I need all the bikes if I want to be a bike rider because I got to try be good at all of them.
Yeah, dude. I'm fully on board. I've been thinking about it more lately of the quiver, you know, like the surfboard. And obviously, you know, you can have, if you just got one bike, that's fucking dope too. Make that thing as sick as you can, ride that motherfucker everywhere. But if you can have other bikes and, you know, like you can have that variety, then it's just like, I'm fucking all about that shit too. And it's something I've been thinking about way more. Like we do like the Transmoto races and then we do motocross races. We got this 125 cup that everyone's got going on. And then there's like the vintage stuff. And it's just like, dude, I kind of want all of it.
Yeah.
Like I kind of really, really want to spend the next, you know, I'm 33. It's like I want to spend the next 30 years riding every fucking thing that I can. Like this is what we should do. I
think it that was also a place that hit me in the lockdown, and I was like, I just want to ride everything. And I kind of like, I definitely cut back on like going out or like being as social, spending money on beers and whatever, you know. I cut that back a little bit, and it's like I don't do anything else other than like I need to buy shovels and I need to buy bikes and the stuff that I get. Like I get my common sales for free and I get a few bits from Chromag and a few of those other brands, but a lot of it I still actually buy myself, and I still work as well, so I spend a lot of money on bikes. Like it seems pretty crazy when you say that I probably got like 12 bikes, but I don't actually really spend money on anything else, like maybe a nice shovel.
Man, it's so true though. Like I've personally gone through this shift of I started like making more money with this, and I was like really like trying to be professional. I'm like really just trying to think about like, I'm gonna save, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I'm gonna buy a house, I gotta do.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, fuck that. Like I do want that eventually, but it's like my kingdom isn't set up yet.
Fully.
Like I fully want to build a kingdom for
Yeah.
for myself, where I've like, one of my things that I've got like my shed. I got this massive shed, and it's cut in two halves, and there's like a divider in the backs where the studio used to be.
Yeah.
Before we got here. So I'm like, okay, I want to turn that into like a legit gym, like for jiu-jitsu, but with like the proper mats that like all the competitions have, all the good gyms have. And it seems excessive to have that at your house, but it's like, that's my kingdom. Like,
Yeah.
and then I want to have, some fitness sort of shit there. And then it's like, then in the front is like where my bikes are. So it's like, what do I save all this money to buy like a house? What do you put in it?
Buy a house. Yeah,
what do you put in it?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like,
exactly what you mean.
in my head, I was like, fuck, like I kind of, to me, I would rather get like a vintage bike and then get like a trials bike, and then it's like, that's my weekend, dude. You know,
fully.
like then I'm doing that, I'm meeting these different people, I'm having these experiences, and I don't know, I feel like, and I was having a chat with my mate about it last night, and he's probably the smartest money dude I know, and he's just like, man, I think I'm down to rent forever.
Yeah.
And I think that there is like a cultural thing around like, you got to buy this, you got to have that, you can't have 12 bikes. That's crazy. What the fuck are you gonna do with 12 bikes? It's like, well, ride every single one of them.
Yeah, I think it's like, even for like that summer, the last year I went to Europe before I won Loose Fest and all of that, like I prioritized my bikes and my lifestyle so much that like right now I've only got like $500 to my name. I don't give a fuck. Like,
yeah, it's so sick.
And I'll go home and I'm happy to eat noodles. I don't care what I'm eating. If it means that I can buy like a set of Chris King hubs for my bike, well, I'm sweet with that, because my bike's going to be pimp and I'm going to enjoy myself when I'm riding it. It's like that year before Loose Fest, I couldn't afford rent anymore. I was living in my van for about a month before I went overseas, and it was midwinter, like freezing cold. And it's like, it seems like a lot of pain now. I look back, like, that was a bit loose. Like, but I lived off 2 minute noodles for like good three months, like leading up to it. I had like about a $40 salary a week was my food budget. And that was kind of like, which doesn't get much. It was just basically eggs and noodles and some muesli bars that I was kind of running off. And to be honest, it hasn't changed heaps. Like, I've tried to make it a little bit more healthy and dialed in now, but it's still like, I probably don't eat or live as well as I should, but it means that I can afford to have and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, hopefully it'll get to the point where like, how my writing's starting to get now, and I'm living comfortably and I'm getting really good backing from awesome companies, and like, it's like, oh, there was actually a light at the end of that tunnel, and now I can see that. And I hope that like this next stage, the quiver, that'll get backed maybe.
Yeah, dude.
I doubt it will, but maybe.
Well, no, and I think like, honestly, man, that's kind of been, it's funny. I had in my own way, like, I thought when I lived in America, I lived there 8 years, and there was times where I had no electricity, I had no water, I had no, like my fucking roommates had gone away and I didn't have enough money to eat food, and I bought dog food for my dog instead of food for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've lived that shit in this like fucking fairyland of, you're gonna write a movie, and you know, like, just this crazy idea in your head of like what I could be. Yeah. And you just like, you can live on it, like fully. You can fully fucking live on just this idea of your future self. Yeah. And if you don't listen to the people that are like fucking the voice in your head that tells you that you're a bum and you're broke and you're this, and then the people that are like, dude, straight up, my mum, every single fucking month, like, dude, you just should come home. Like, this isn't working for you. Like, you've got to come home. And she was fucking right in the end, like coming home led me to do this, but it's like, timing and all the shit that works out. But like man, you can live a life on this fucking weird idea that you've got for your future self, like what I can be.
I think the last 3 years that I've gone to Europe, the last big trips, I've known that I've only had enough money for the first month of the trip, and it's been a 4-month trip, and it's like, yeah, definitely the last 2 trips I've got to Europe, and I knew that I had not enough money to even get my flight to Canada from Europe. I've somehow made it work, like adjusted bikes or sold different parts of my bikes and done this and that, done some cashies or something. And you get there, you get back, like that last time I got home from Europe, I got back, I had $14. I went and put $4 in my fuel in my van so I could get home, and then $10 I bought like a 24 pack of eggs and 3 loaves of bread, and that was my first week back. And it's like, yeah, I like sharing that too, because it, from like a social media or internet, it looks like everyone's living this glory life, which we are.
Yeah,
we're definitely living it up, like it's insane,
but there's some sacrifices,
but there are massive sacrifices.
You got to pay to play.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't even see it as an issue. It's just like, it's sick.
Dude, there was times where I was like I had flights, right? So I'd leave a shoot, and I'd have not enough money for excess baggage. So like, if they weighed my bags, I was fucked. Like, I literally couldn't get home. Yeah. And I'd be in these airports by myself in America, no fucking credit on my phone, and like got literally enough money to eat and get back home, and just then chill and wait. But it's like, if I got one person that decided to wait, like my carry-on bag was 23 kilos, because I had fucking,
that's why I said I was
reds in it, and you know what I mean, like hard drives and laptop. Like, I can't leave. That's a fucking $100,000 backpack. And that's the other thing too, like, I'd invested everything. Like, I invested everything, my whole life, into just like my backpack. Yeah. And it's the same with you, like you invested everything you had into your bikes, and then you're riding, and then you're just like living on a prayer, like you're just living on this hope of like, I know if I get a fucking, one day Red Bull will come knocking, or one day this will happen, one day that'll happen, and it's like you just exist in that state, and when you look
don't
back,
even think of it as an issue.
And you look back, and then now I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that. I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore, and maybe I will have to do it again. There's no guarantees.
I definitely know I'm going to be doing it again. It's going to happen, because I know that I'm going to probably buy some real nice bike somewhere. And I'll go to Europe and see a nice 250 gas and be like, oh,
I do need to do trials while I'm
here. Then I would struggle for the rest of the trip. But
have you got any other stuff like on your mind that you want to get,
like
bike wise?
I mean, it never really ends. There's always stuff.
It is true.
I'm pretty happy with what I've got right now, but in saying that, I know that in a year I'm going to have to upgrade all the stuff, because it's probably going to be worn out. So like,
yeah, true.
That's a constant rotation. But yeah, just, I guess at the moment I'm pretty happy with where my bikes are. It's been pretty good the last little while, especially my downhill bike, and I've kind of minimalized it. There's not much that really needs to change. There's not much that can go wrong on it. I've got a good frame and
no chain,
good parts, no like mechanical things. So it's pretty solid.
That's so sick. You ain't breaking any derailleur hangers.
No.
So when you did sign with Red Bull, that's life changing for a guy that's in your position. What was
massively, yeah.
What was the emotions you went through? I'm sure there was a lot of relief, and then like there's expectations and pressure. Like, I mean, Carson actually, Storch, we spoke about it. Yeah. Where he was just like, dude, it head fucked me when I got that helmet, because I was like, I don't know if I'm worth this. And then Berriman, same combo. Like, that lid comes with a lot. Yeah,
it definitely is pretty weird. You go to the track and everyone looks at you straight away, and you're like, whoa. But it's I think that's where I got pretty lucky with that month lockdown going straight into, because it really it made me think about everything. And I kind of, by the time I came out of that, and then also I didn't really go to any big public events or anything for a good year, because nothing was happening. So I felt quite settled into it by the time it happened. I felt like I got it, and the hype had kind of released by the time that I got to an event in front of people, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I felt comfortable by then, which was pretty cool. And I really did notice that.
And so you had all those thoughts though?
I definitely had a lot of thoughts. I was like, fire, this is pretty crazy. Like, especially where it happened. Like, I got handed the helmet at Crankworks, and I wasn't there to ride. I was there as a builder. Like, I was building the course. So it was pretty weird. Like, you know, there's people... I think it just felt weird for me as, like, I've always been a passionate trail builder, and I've always done that, but I kind of started getting myself into a position where I was more prioritizing trail building than riding, and I more felt like I was at that event and people knew me as a trail builder more than I was a bike rider.
That's like, bizarre.
Yeah, and I knew that I kind of got myself into that because I knew that it was kind of like the way my profession was leading in that direction, but it was pretty weird at the end of the week being seen as that dude covered in mud all week, dragging around the hoses, tarping up the jumps, slapping stuff in, like, you know, just the shit kicker walking around the event covered in mud all week, to like doing the Magaza train as the trail builder and landing, and like there's other people there putting their life on the line trying to do the tricks, and then I got handed the helmet that most of those guys are also trying to work for, and it was like quite a buzzy feeling. It was like, I was like, this is so... I was so happy, obviously, but it was so like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, that I'm just being myself now and this has happened, rather than like, I guess I didn't get that pressure of like, I hadn't just won a competition and been handed it and being like, well, pressure's on now. It was more like,
you got to keep winning.
And more felt like I'd earned it overall in the sport, I guess.
Yeah.
Which was quite like satisfying.
Oh, dude. And I mean, I felt some kind of way about it, you know, like it made me feel so good to see it, and it made a lot of other people so good to see that went down. And like, I remember just, it was everywhere, like everyone was tagging you, and it was really cool, man. Like that isn't something you see every day. Like, you get given a helmet, and then it was almost just like this flood of support of people just being like, fuck yes.
Yeah, it was insane. That was the best day of my life, probably. Like, it was my birthday as well. So it was like, the whole situation was like, it got lifted from, it was just like, obviously it was a good day in the office because I was building at Crankworks, but it was literally like I was just at work. I was like, it was just a normal work day. And then that escalated into that. I was like, whoa.
So you knew that, like, you obviously had done the deal.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'd been verbally told, but no contracts, no helmet.
So you hadn't signed the contract or anything?
Nah. So I knew that it was happening, but I thought that it was happening a few weeks after because I think it was meant to. I think the COVID whole lockdown thing might have just rushed it a little bit quicker, but I had in my head that I was going back to Australia a few weeks after Crankworks, and then we were going to do some cool thing. But I knew that I was riding for them, but didn't know when anything was actually going to happen, I guess. So like, it fully caught me off guard. I was like, what the hell? Like, it was a special moment.
And so how did it change your life?
I guess from then, especially mentally, it changed it, because it was like, I nearly accepted myself as more of a trail builder than rider. That's kind of the direction that I was starting to lead into, and the way that...
And why was that, you reckon?
Just after that bad accident I had, it just seemed to be... I never really... That was the first year that I started getting financial backup from any sponsors. And then I started gaining them again in about 2019. I got like my first actual paycheck that I'd ever gotten from riding. But it wasn't anything you could live off. It was just enough pretty much to pay for my flight to and from Europe, which was still crazy. But then I started trail building. It was going pretty well for myself. I felt like I'd kind of more peaked it. You know, I'd gone to like, in riding, obviously I was competing in Crankworks, but in trail building, I was building Crankworks, which is pretty much like winning trail building. Like I was kind of at the top of it.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was nearly working out for me better than riding. And it was such like a reevaluation once I'd been given the helmet. I was like, whoa, I'm still on the radar for riding, kind of thing. Like, I knew that I was personally, like, I felt good about how I was riding. I was happy I was riding, but I didn't realize that on a global status that that's how people still saw it. So it was quite a good reminder. I was like, whoa, this is actually like, I'm just being the person I've always been, digging and writing. And now I'm getting kind of rewarded for it.
Yeah.
And now it's like, now it's really allowed me to be myself, because I'm like, all right, I've got, since that deal, my other sponsors are starting to back me more as well. And not that they obviously were already, but everyone's like on a more high level now. And it's pretty, it just feels really nice to like know that I can be the guy that I want to be and get like respected for it, I guess.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I don't know. It's just a real weird thing to take in, that I can actually do what I wanted to do as a kid, and it's actually happening.
Yeah, dude, it would be a trip. And so let's say there's somebody out here that's listening to this podcast that is sitting there going like, okay, what the fuck is the big deal about a Red Bull helmet?
Yeah.
How would you explain that to them?
I think that you would be lying if you're a person in any action sports and said that you didn't want a Red Bull helmet when you were a kid. Like, that's like the pinnacle of action sports to me, is that their logo on any feature or helmet. That's like, you know, if they've got their name to it, it's going to be like the pinnacle of the best kind of thing. So I don't know. It's saying for me as a kid, like I remember the first time I stood on a podium that had a Red Bull banner in the background. I was so stoked, because I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, there's Red Bull in the background. And it's just like, I reckon I've wanted the Red Bull helmet since I was 5 years old, since I met Nathan Rennie at Nerang BMX track, and he rode for Syndicate and Red Bull. Then I was like, Dad, I want that helmet. And I said it my whole life, I was like, I'm going to get that helmet. I want that helmet. And I was like, never like said it and like,
I got goosebumps, dude, thinking about that.
Yeah, but I never said it in a public place. It was just like to my dad or something. I was like, that's what you want as a kid. That's just like the top. It seems from an outside that's the top, I reckon. And it's like, once you get more and more involved in the sport, I guess I started meeting more and more people, and it started seeming more achievable, and like, well, that it actually could be possible. But then it's a big step from it could be possible to happening. Yeah. And when it does happen, you're like, holy shit.
and it facilitates. So I guess the importance of it is that essentially, like, Red Bull is a platform.
Yeah.
It's more than it's like, you're not just getting a sponsor and some money and a cool helmet. You're getting access to a platform.
I think that's kind of the part that, it's the platform that is the important part. And I got explained that pretty well from one of my old mechanics, Nigel. He's like, Red Bull's it's not so much the helmet that's the crazy part of the thing. It's what they actually provide. And it's like, it's as little as my manager touching base like once a fortnight and being like, hey Remy, you all good? Do you need this or that? Are you safe? Like, how's the COVID stuff? Are you under control? To like, it's from that to like getting an injury and them helping me. Like, when I did crash in 2017, if it weren't for the Red Bull, the doctors that they supplied me and the physios, I don't think I'd even be riding right now.
Really? So Red Bull was a part of that rehab?
Yeah. So I met them and I started meeting the Red Bull people in 2015, and it's kind of just gone like a friendship, I guess, from there. But they reached out in 2017 after my accident and pretty much got me in touch with like the best doctors possible. And I honestly, like, that was when it really clicked to me, I think, through that and Nigel telling me that like they care about they care about their friends and athletes and family so much, and that is such an important thing for anyone, I think. Like, if the love's there, like, everything is, kind of thing.
Dude, it's fucking crazy with them too. Like, like the friends of Red Bull, there's like a network of people that are friends of Red Bull that don't, like, I don't have a Red Bull hat, but I'm like a friend of Red Bull, and man, I get looked after with those guys. Like, and it's just little shit, like
it's as little as like a text messaging saying like, hey Jace, would you like some cans or something, like,
and
it's as little as someone looking out for you.
Yeah, and just like planting an idea.
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever thought about this?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't. I actually haven't. Well, perfect example, dude. So this podcast was supposed to go down while you were last year still in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But we couldn't end up getting it happen. But Red Bull were the ones that were going to make that happen, you know? So there's this whole universe surrounding Red Bull that I don't even think that many people kind of know about, of like there's so many people behind the scenes that are like kind of pulling strings in different ways to like get people together and to like link different people to cross different disciplines, and it's almost like that's the more important part.
That's, to me as a person, that's the most important part. It's like there's no way I'd be in my position right now if it weren't for a few specific people within that company. Like they've, especially one of my main dudes, Kyle, he's like, if it weren't for Kyle, I don't know, I don't think I'd be riding right now. Like he's really, and it was as little as, hey, can we help you with a doctor?
Yeah.
Like, oh, and I felt like shy kind of saying yes. I was like, oh, maybe you can help. And it's seriously gone from that to like to what it is now. And it's so, I could never thank those guys enough. It's been insane.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I think it's definitely worth talking about in a guy like your case. And again, you know, like I've been so close with Berriman since 2010 was when we first met.
Yeah.
And yeah, like to see the same thing, like there's this unlikely dude that so many people like wouldn't really have given a chance to, and then it's like you give that guy a helmet and you give him a bit of access to the checkbook, and all of a sudden what's in his brain is now in all of our brains.
Yeah,
like I can't unsee some Berriman shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that classic example is that fucking Farm Jam whip, dude.
Yeah, fully.
You know, that
flying past upside down,
gets that helmet, and then it's just like that was everywhere, dude.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and by them just doing that, that's just completely changed his life,
and that'll change motorcycling.
Yeah, fully.
That's two wheels different now.
Yeah,
because of a sponsorship.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not like it doesn't come from Tyler, right? But it's like Tyler was doing the same shit for a really long time, but without the backing and without and like your Sound of Speed, that was like the first project that you dropped with them, and it was fucking crazy, like you can't make that happen without those guys.
No way. And it's the fact that they're so open to letting us be ourselves and push it in ourselves, that like every other company I've ever dealt with has pretty much been like, they expect a certain result, where Red Bull have 100% trust and backing in me to do what I want to do, and they trust me that I'm going to provide them. It feels like it's pretty it's a pretty special feeling, eh?
Yeah, dude. No, for sure, man. And I just think like the crazy to watch which way it could have gone.
Yeah.
If Red Bull isn't around,
Fully. Well, there's a whole new discipline of riding that I'm trying to kind of unlock at the moment, that I know that they're backing and they're going to be on board with. And I know that if I tried to do it without them, I would just get looked at like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And it's to do with all that chainless stuff. And it's kind of a whole new style. It's me being myself with the bike that I want to be, and having them being able to make people listen, because they're like, if Red Bull are backing it, it's probably actually going to be, people listen.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited for the next year or so. I think it's going to, with their help and their backing, we're going to do some pretty crazy stuff that I don't think I ever would have been able to achieve without.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and like that's the hallmark of those guys. Like, fuck, I wish more people would do it. It's not like you have to be Red Bull to do that with athletes.
No.
Like you could be anyone and go to your athletes like, dude, do you, bro?
Fully. I think the whole social media side of it, and the way that sponsors are changing a lot, because it's not a lot of riding or any action sports isn't so much performance based anymore. So I think it will start going in that direction, but it's kind of just the start of that evolution.
Yeah. What was the Sound of Speed project like? Because that's your first one. And I mean, I know the pressure that I've felt when I'm doing that style of project with Red Bull. Like, there's a fucking lot. Like, you want to make that shit clap.
Yeah, I think so. I really wanted my first project to be like, well, Remy did deserve that helmet kind of thing. That was like the one I was like, I have to ride this really well because I want people to see why they're backing me and why I'm being who I'm trying to be kind of thing. And it was a lot of pressure on myself, and it went from, there was talk of doing like a build or maybe trying to do something like what we've just done here this past week, and then it kind of, just with all the current situations with travel restrictions, it ended up just being at Skyline in the Queenstown mountain bike park. And I was like, all right, we can do it, but it has to be like really good because it's not like people haven't seen that bike park before, you know?
Yeah.
It's like nearly every pro rider has dropped an Instagram edit in that bike park on standout features, which a lot of the stuff that I filmed were standout spots. Like, they're not, and you can't really get away from them because the way that I like riding is this, a lot of the time other people like riding, and that's what's been posted a lot. So it was a lot of practice. I reckon I was riding in the park for like every day for about 3 months, doing push runs in winter, trying to learn some bits and pieces when the park was closed and trying to like really figure it out.
That's sick.
And it wasn't even like so much for others, but it was like, you know, when you've ridden something so many times, I know if I've ridden it better. Yeah. Like, I'll hit a jump and be like, oh, I have hit that better. Whereas in that video, I wanted it to be like, for myself, I hit every single thing. Like, every single clip in that whole edit, I reckon I pushed, like, whether it was a close-up or a long distance, both of those versions, I would have pushed at least 10 times. And, like, yeah, every single section, every single, like, clip of a corner would have been, like, a good 20 runs of that corner before we got the right one. And I was like, it was because I wanted to make sure that I hit it, like, better than I ever have, so that it did stand out to people and be like, whoa, he rode that good.
and how long did you film it over?
It was 4 days. Wow. So
4 days of pushing.
Yeah, I think the last day was like a 16-hour day or something. Just pushing.
And
big days, dark till dark.
Were you happy with the response that you got from it?
Yeah, I was a bit nervous, to be honest. I bet. But I knew that I put in as much as I could. So I was kind of like, I hope that the people are all good about it. And then also, I guess, like, for a edit of that level with Red Bull was the first time that I know of that in like a Sound of Speed that someone's just worn full normal clothing and no pads. I knew I was going to get judged for it. And I was like, I hope that, like, I just wanted no bullshit. I just wanted, like, the riding to be good enough to show that it was self-explanatory. You're like, you didn't need to question anything else. You're like, whoa. Like, that was kind of what I was hoping for. And I watched the edit, like, probably 10 to 15 different cuts throughout, like, it getting slimmed down and made. And then I didn't see it for a while. And then Scott said it was dropping. I was like, oh. But I'm pretty happy with what people thought. I think the message went through of, like, what I was hoping, which is just, like, me riding my bike how I want to ride and no bullshit.
Dude, the first time I watched it, I feel like I had metal playing in my head, even though the clip was silent, because I was like, this is so fucking metal. Like, he's just fucking sending it.
Yeah, I always...
Even though you're a full D&B kid.
No, I always watch that edit and then put this Danzig song on in the background, eh?
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Dude, I should watch it with some music in the background.
Yeah, I'll show you the song that I usually run. It's like a mashup song of the Ramones and Danzig. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, because I just watch it. I'm like, that is fucking metal, dude.
Yeah.
Like, if you could ever, you know, like, Moto is metal. Like, if you could ever fucking attribute it to a clip, like, that's fucking metal.
Yeah, sick. That's what we want.
So the progression of mountain biking, like, I feel as though mountain biking is or the kind of discipline that you ride in, like that whole free ride. There's a few sections of mountain biking, right? but it feels like they're all like really progressing. I wouldn't say the World Cup racing side of things, like outside of racing, it seems like mountain biking is one of the two-wheeled sports that is like still fucking going off.
Yeah, it is. And
I don't know where the level is or how close we are to it.
The weird thing is at the moment is that there's no real... There actually isn't disciplines for the way it's progressing. You know, there's free ride, cross country, and downhill.
Yeah.
Enduro. But what I'm doing isn't any of those. And that's one thing that's really bugged me for the last few years. You go to any event or any big jumps and people be like, oh, they're Fest Series jumps. And you're like, well, not really. Fest Series is an event. It's not a type of riding. Like,
yeah,
I don't go ride a downhill track and say, we're riding World Cup today.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one thing that's really bugged me with that. And I think it's awesome that it comes a lot from skate culture and BMX culture, that it's really like the 50 to 1 guys are real like street BMX style, whereas I don't know, there's ways, what I'm trying to push is way more trails BMX. And then that goes into like this next edit that I've just been working on this was kind of my trial piece to showcase what I want to push and how I want to push riding. And it's kind of a big step, but it's the way that I want to push it. And to me, it just makes sense. And I'm going to call it DHT, which is like in cross country, there's cross country and there's cross country eliminator, which is XCO, XC. So there's downhill, there's DHT. DHT is what I want to start pushing, is what I'm currently riding. It's downhill trails. It's big, it's badass, and it's got flow. And it's just like, they're not competition jumps, they're trails. Like they're BMX style jumps on a downhill bike, but another level, because we can use the whole mountain and we've got the bikes that we need to go bigger. So that's the whole side of the sport that I want to start growing. And having someone like Red Bull back that is crazy, because I say that to anyone else and they're like, yeah, but who's their market for? It doesn't market for a bike brand. They're like, no one's riding that right now.
Yeah, no one's buying any DHT bikes.
Yeah, which they're gonna be.
Yeah, they'll be making them.
Yeah, but right now, like, it's not even a thing. So it's like, how do I market that to a brand I'm currently riding for? Like, yeah, I'm going to build DHT this year. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, I fucking love where your head's at with all this shit, man. Like, it's really, really, really cool to have, like, the level of conviction that you do around this kind of stuff. Where it's like, it's obvious that you've done the work mentally and you're like, well, I kind of don't give a fuck. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I've just had so many... Over the time of riding and events, I've had so many people say, you can't wear that, Remy, you can't wear this. Like, why the fuck can't I? Like, I'm going to. I've put my life on the line. I've had a bad crash. And I don't mean in any of this in a cocky way. It's just like, I've just had enough of not being able to express myself the way that I want to do it. And I want to ride and build the stuff that I've always dreamt of doing. And it's kind of like, it's going to be some sacrifices for me. I'm not going to get backing from certain people on it. Like, people are going to be like, why should we back that? We don't make that. And it's like, but if I don't do it, how are the kids going to do it? The next generation, you know, like, how's the sport going to progress? How are they going to get that next, like, gist of riding? If, you know, like, I'm happy to sacrifice it, because at the end of the day, all I want to do is ride bikes and have fun. And if it means that come 10 years time, my mate's son can get paid to be a DHT rider. Yeah. That's sick. Like, that's the go.
That is sick, dude. So these jumps, like the Fest Series jumps, like that, that style, like I mean, obviously, like, the consequences are gnarly. If you fuck it up, you've lived that. Yeah. But like, how gnarly is that riding? Because, dude, like, I watch that shit and it's just like, fuck, that's a lot.
Yeah, I guess it is what you make of it. Like, the way that I like riding of it, I didn't see it too gnarly, and maybe Andreo and stuff would say the way that they ride it isn't too gnarly because they're just used to doing a big 360 or a Superman or something. Like, I guess it is what you make of it, but to me, it's no different than, like, obviously I'll be at the top and you're scared. Like, it's terrifying, but at the end of the day, you know how to ride a bike and you know how to ride jumps. It's more the mental instinct of trusting yourself on that, I think, and being like, all right, I am a good enough rider for this. Like, I've obviously got to this event for a reason.
Yeah.
Because I want to be here, kind of thing. Like, and it's just, I think the trail building side of it is the most important thing for that style of event, because you have so much trust in those builders like Nico and Clements and those guys that they've done a safe job for you.
Yeah.
That's the gnarly part, but it's all in like the culture of trusting each other and knowing that it's going to be good. Is
that something that you think makes mountain biking and BMX sort of special as well? Is that it's like, so I'm thinking from like a motocross perspective.
Yeah.
So you get fucking Dream Tracks, or you get whatever comes in and they build like the Supercross track that you race on. There's no real connection to the ride. Dream Tracks is actually a bad example. They don't do the Supercross, and Jason Baker is tight with riders, and I feel like that's probably why he gets picked to do all the Red Bull shit, is because he's probably as close as it gets to that.
Yeah.
But it's like, as we've been talking, it seems like there's a link between the culture and the community and the vibe that you're talking about. And it seems like the fact that you guys are building your own shit and you are trusting each other, like when you get to that extreme like Fest Series level, you're like literally trusting these dudes with your life, and it seems like it's all in the community. It's not like a separate guy builds this and then they leave and then it's up to you to ride.
Nah, but I think that is why the Fest Series is stuck around, why it stands out so much, and why it has changed the sport, because those guys they all joined force, and they're all in the same mindset of kind of what I'm trying to explain, and they're all...
It makes sense that would really make a difference.
And it really shows when you see the riders that are selected for Fest. They may not be the best riders, but they've got the best mindset to work with each other, and they're all there because they're like-minded, we trust each other, and everyone wants to be there for the same reason, and everyone is happy to be there for that reason, kind of thing. Like,
and is it so gnarly that you guys are, even though you're competing in a sense, that it's so gnarly you're all really trying to help each other out? Pretty
much. Like those events they're not a competition at all. Like this year, they've fully taken away any trophies or anything. There's not a single thing anymore. It's just full jam session. And that's because we all believe, and I know they're all the same, it's like, you're there because we want to be bike riders, and they're all there for the same reason that I've just spent the last hour talking about. It's like, we don't really care what anyone else thinks. We don't want the pressure of a TV following us, or like, or an event, or your name being called, Remy, you have to drop now. So, well, my arm's just clicked, I don't really feel good, I'd rather drop in 30 seconds, you know? Like,
yeah.
That's the whole reason of it, because we feel that if we put each other in that atmosphere of like being as comfortable as possible, no pressure, do whatever you want, that's when you'll really perform. And you're not like on a beep countdown, like, oh shit, I have to go right now. Like, I've just inhaled a fly on the start ramp.
Yeah.
And I have to go. It's like, you get a choice, and no one will judge you if you don't want to ride, which is like, that was the thing that really stood out with Fest Series to me, was like, if you don't want to ride, no one's going to judge you. You're not going to get called out. No one cares. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, it's too big to risk that kind of thing. It's just like, you ride when you want to ride, do what you want to do. If you don't want to do a backflip, everyone's going to support you if you're doing a bar turn. Like, it's just like, you're all going to perform in your own special way.
It seems kind of like the base jump community in a sense. You know, like, I don't know if you know many like base jump guys or anyone that does that kind of stuff, but it's like, it seems like the same ethos within the community. It's like, hey guys, safety first. If you don't feel good about something, there's no because it's almost like the consequences are so gnarly.
Yeah.
You know, like, you could go to a local bowl or whatever and you'll be like, fucking just hit it, dude. Like, do this, you got this or whatever. But it's like, the consequences of these things are literally life or death, to where the whole thing is
too
just
high
safety.
To put pressure on someone.
Yeah.
You've already put so much mental pressure on yourself to get to that point. you don't need someone saying, I'm following you with this drone right now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like if you want it, yeah, of course I want it. Like, yeah, follow us down. Like, that'd be sick. But like, it's the safety is the most important part of it. And it's not only the physical safety, it's the mental safety of not being pushed into something you don't want to do.
Yeah. And so what's it like when you get to one of those events and you do your first run? Because like, so I had a video up, that Loose Fest 2020 first runs, and I was watching it. I'm just going like, just play that with no sound, Rones, and don't put it on the screen because we'll get copyrighted. But it's just like, I'm looking at, that's fucking dope too, by the way. But yeah, you're looking at these guys hitting it for the first time, and it's just like, and because these jumps like 80, 90 feet?
The first one's 89 feet, so sweet spot's about 100 on this first long one.
On this first one?
So that's actually the biggest jump of the line, I think. So he probably he would have landed at easily 100 then.
That is so big, dude.
It was pretty, yeah, that was pretty deep.
So like, yeah, what's the headspace that you have to occupy to do this for the first time?
So I was there for this whole build last time with Nico.
Yeah.
And so I spent about 2 or 6 weeks there probably. So by the time it came to riding...
So it takes like 6 weeks to build that.
Well, I already felt like I had ridden them by the time I did ride them this time around, which was kind of my hope with that event specifically, because the time before I just went there and 3 days in was in a coma. So, so like...
Sick trip.
Yeah, it was a sick trip. But yeah, I think it's a weird one. Like you go there and I just take it as they're another set of jumps now. Like I know how to ride a jump, and I know not to grab the brakes off the lip, or I know not to get straight legs, and I know they're going to work because I trust Nico. I trust Clements. I trust, I don't know, any of the other boys that are going to dig it. And I know they're going to build good stuff, and I know that if I watch them, I'll definitely do a walkthrough and make sure that there's nothing obvious that I'm stressed about. But it's usually the same mindset as hitting anything.
Yeah. And is there like a lot of fear?
Definitely quite a bit. I think Loose Fest for me specifically was a big one. Like
now it's got some extra shit attached to it for you.
Yeah. So like when I went back to that, my family didn't really want me to do it. Like it was a pretty big thing because like I was obviously really hurt and in a really bad way for a pretty long time. And then I said that
the mental toll that would have taken on your parents too is heavy.
Yeah, it was more, I think more on them than me. Like a lot more on them. Like they just saw me in hospital for 6 weeks asleep basically. Like with nothing going on. So dad made sure he came back to that one. So it was a pretty big one for me being like, all right, I need to like, I felt like I had a lot of pressure in like family trust to like, Remy,
I got to pull this off.
Yeah. He's actually like not just being trying to be a superhero now. He's actually being himself sort of thing.
Yeah.
So when I did my first run of that, would have done like the first jump, we rode one Arvo, and then the next Arvo, I rode the first top 3 jumps. Yeah. Saw dad. He was staying at the top of the step down, which is right there. He's just just on the right, just there. And then I was like, all right, it's on. And I had those crazy eyes that I was talking about, I think. Yeah. In the zone eyes. And he just like gave me a head nod. And then went back up, rode the whole line. So there's like second run of the day, rode the whole line and tested the new bottom jump that we'd dug. I followed Sam straight through. And yeah, I could see, I looked up, I got the T-bar at the bottom and I looked over, I could see dad like crying. Yeah, right. And I just rode straight over to him. We had a beer together after the first run. I just had like a sip of his and gave him a big hug and like, I don't know, pretty emotional feeling, eh? Oh, I bet, man. And then just ripped into a hell session basically. After that was like, the bullshit was over. It was time to get into it. That's so sick, dude. Yeah, man. I mean, I briefly met your dad in New Zealand. Yeah. And I could really, like, some people you can just tell there's like a lot going on. Yeah. And I could just tell that there was like a lot going on with you and your dad. And I mean, it makes sense, like what you went through with like the injury and stuff. But like even now listening to you talk, it seems like
a lot of the wisdom that you've kind of got around certain things comes from your old boy.
Well, I think it's 'cause he's not just like dad is my best mate. Like I talk to dad more than I talk to anyone, and it's not because it's not the standard like father son connection. It's not. I'm not asking for advice. We're just talking shit. Like we grew up riding together. Grew up riding motos, pushies, fishing, hiking, camping. Like I always did everything with him. He was definitely my best mate forever. So I guess when I see him, it's like I'm hanging out with one of the boys, like fully. It's pretty funny, and it's, I guess, because he's seen so much, as obviously as well as being like a best mate, he's also seen my whole life, so he really knows when to pull me out and be like, don't be an idiot, kind of thing.
Yeah, he knows like the real you.
Yeah, he knows the me that usually you would try hide from your parents.
Yeah.
He knows that side. Mum might not know it, but dad definitely does.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So with these, like, what's next? Because this looks fucking crazy. But there's obviously a next.
Yeah, I think.
And like, do you need to go bigger than this? Like, where does it?
No, it can go way bigger than this.
It can go way bigger.
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning, to be honest. This is like, the way that I see it is like, you look at how much bikes have progressed in the last 20 years and the technology that they've put into bikes, it's nowhere near gone close in building, in the trail building. So that's like where my whole chainless scheme of things comes in, and trying to build shit a bit more dialed and trying to do it, is because I feel like trail building has gotten to a point now where it's like, it's become such a corporate thing that we're riding the same difficulty tracks, generally the same as we were in 2005. But the bikes, the only difference is they're built safer. But then the bikes are like 20 years advanced. So I don't see how we can't keep up with the bikes, you know? We should... It should still be like the early 2000s and we're snapping bikes every week, but we're not. Like, I'm not saying that should happen, but like in my head, I feel like
that's
the trail building progression that should still be the exact same as it was in the 90s, but it should be now. Like, I can't see why we couldn't hit 200-foot jumps, but it's just not been done because it's been so focused on catering for growing into more of a general sport rather than an extreme sport that it once was, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you definitely need both, and I think that the one will feed the other, or like they'll both feed each other. But you're right, like it's been underrepresented.
I think so. Like you think about, like motorbikes are still progressing in their jumping, and we've kind of stalled for a long time.
I'd honestly say, man, until like Tyler and Axel, it had stalled.
Yeah, and they've done that next step.
Like, dude, I mean, you watched Slayground 3 for sure.
Yeah.
What the actual fuck is that place about? Like, I've seen a lot, and I ain't ever seen nothing like that.
So when you see that, that's how I compare, like...
That's DHT.
That's DHT to me. At the moment, there's the Fest series, which is psycho. It's the best shit ever. But I can't see why the next point of it, how I want to make it is like they're big jumps. They're like insane. But to me, I kind of compare it as a dirt jump competition compared to a trails competition or trails jam kind of thing. And I think the next step for me in that style of riding would be building Fest series jumps in a DHT course. So it would be like going to that progression that Axel's gone to Slayground, where it's like more windy, more technical, more body and posture focused and skill and technique. Yeah. I think that's the next step of like this, because when we get comfortable hitting 100 footers on mountain bikes on a hip or on a straight into a berm, and we start learning that technique, that's when we'll be able to then go from there and be like, well, if I can hit 100 foot into a jump, into a berm, why can't I hit a 200 foot with a straight exit? Kind of thing, like.
Yeah. And so when you talk about like the technique of like having to hit 100 footer into a berm, like what's the challenges of that like would make you want to change, or like that you'd have to adapt technique to?
I think it's just learning. It's just not been done before.
Yeah,
it's true. Like it's not going to be any different to a small jump into a berm. It's just like, it's just gnarlier because obviously you've got to like, when you land a jump like that, you're already so relieved that you've landed, let alone trying to think about the corner you're about to hit. So it's like, I think it's just getting comfortable with that next level of like built in close shit.
Yeah.
That you can then get like I can hit a 100-footer into a 90-degree turn and straight into an 80-foot step down.
Yeah.
And then I can be like, well, if I can do that, I should realistically be able to hit like a 100-footer into a 200-footer because they're just basic straight hits.
Yeah, I wonder too if there's like ever a way that, you know, you can get to the level where you've got like a Remy ground. You know what I mean? It's like it's not a sleigh ground, but it's like you've got...
That's my plan, yeah.
Yeah, like, and then it's like you've got this canvas of a hill.
Yeah.
There you're like, all right, I've like built a cabin. It's like you don't need a lot to live. It's like, all right, I got my little cabin that's like at the top, and then I've got my fucking 12 bikes in it, and then this is like my hill, and then
it's semi in the works at the moment, actually.
Fucking perfect.
Yeah,
because that
is
I feel like
works, yeah.
I feel like that's the shit that needs to go down to like really progress to where it's not like once a year that you're getting to hit these jumps.
No, and that's what I don't want to be. I want to be able to finish work on a Wednesday afternoon and be able to hit a 120-foot step down, like. You know, that's what I. That's
that
what I
sounds like the dumbest shit.
Yeah, but that's the kind of level. You know, you've knocked off for the day. You deserve a bit of a treat. You know, I want the wind to go through my hair.
It's fucking sounds like the dumbest thing ever, but it's like the best thing that you could ever say.
Yeah, you know, like I don't know. That's how I'd like to see it, and like. At the moment, I'm hitting like you finish work, you finish trail building for the day, and you go and ride some sick jumps. But like, you wanna be shitting your pants on the start ramp every day, because if you're not going to be progressing in life. I reckon. Like, that's what you want.
It's good advice, but it's like you saying that is like someone telling me that an ice bath is good for me. You know what I mean? It's like that same
There's definitely
thing.
days I don't want it. I'm like,
exactly.
that's a bit too much. That's a bit full on. Like, you don't need to be talking about that. But like at the end of the day, that's what you really want.
No, but you are right. Like the things that scare you the most are the things that if you can conquer, and it becomes like this daily thing. Like Levi Jones Leary, he's like a jiu-jitsu world champion. He come on the podcast, and his mum would tell him his whole life, do difficult things easily. Yeah. That was just like his mantra in life, was just like, I'm going to go and do this like super hard thing, and I'm going to like do it until it feels easy. Yeah. And, you know, that same thinking can be applied to like an ice bath or even, you know, meditation. Like it's hard to do it every day. Like there is an aversion that you've got to it. And it's like being scared and hitting those kind of jumps every day. It's like,
it only takes so long till it becomes normal. It's like,
and that's where the progression happens, which is what you're talking about. Is like you kind of need a chance to get comfortable being super uncomfortable, and then you'll know, like that comfortability will be your cue to step the fuck up.
Yeah. And then then you'll get to a point where, I'll probably have had enough of being on that level, and then like hopefully I've inspired someone else to be on that level. That's kind of the plan. Like, it's weird to say that now because I haven't even gotten to that level, but that would be like the ideal situation. And you look at any sport, and that's how it's always happened. So and it's kind of our time to do that in mountain biking.
And so like Matt McDuff obviously has like his super gnarly crash, and then it's like he gets limited with riding, and then you can see in his latest edits like he's still fucking doing some crazy ass shit, but it seems like on different terms, you know, like.
Well, I think he's the same with me. He's just adjusted to what he can physically do now. Like,
but there's still, like you said, you know, you can't do that forever, and it's like there'll be a time where you won't be sending it 120, 200 feet forever.
Yeah.
And then it's like you scale it back and you find progression in like another pocket.
Fully, yeah. Like, and whether that be progression in like more of a lifestyle thing that also gives back to the sport, or it's just like you wearing different shit and riding different parts to other people. Like, it could be something so basic that is actually a big change in culture.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Now, before you go, can you tell me what the fuck is going on with Queenstown and drum and bass?
Queenstown drum and bass.
The boys fucking love it. Shout out to Dizzy Peacekeeper, the great man himself.
Yeah, so
That was a culture shock. Like, you know, when you go somewhere and you travel for the first time and you get like a culture shock.
Yeah.
Like, you go to Thailand, you see like fucking 10-year-old kids blowing fire to make money to get by. I'm like, wow, that's a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah.
And then I stood in a fucking barn at the bottom of the planet with a bunch of sweaty Kiwis in cut off fucking jeans, drum and bass going fucking ham. And I was like, wow, this is a culture shock.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say like drum and bass music is probably like the biggest music in New Zealand. It's kind of like, I don't know how you compare it here, some Triple J shit like Sticky Fingers or something. I guess it's like that kind of comparison.
Kings of Leon.
Yeah, it's like the New Zealand version. But I see it in such like, there's such high energy in it, and I think it works so well in New Zealand because there's a lot of pretty loose people and a lot of like good athletes and riders and snowboarders, skaters, skiers. Like it's just like the drops that they play in their music, I guess, is like the same thing as us hitting a hit, and it's just like pretty exciting. I started holding some drum bass nights in one of the bars in Queenstown, and we were like selling some of my shirts and shit, and we were like doing cool artwork and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know what it is about that music, but it really like makes everyone switch off and no one cares what anyone thinks, and you get away with it. It's like a weird little blocker, hey? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the go is, but it's just like, I find it such a similar, even with a few of like the good artists that I've met from that genre of music, it's a very similar mindset to writing as well. Like they're going through the same, instead of like sponsorship contracts, they're going through their label contracts or whatever. And they're actually very like-minded people, and their adrenaline's just in the music, whereas ours is in the writing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it works so well together, because it's the same like upbeat, high, like, I don't know, high energy sort of feeling that you get from one another.
That release.
Yeah, you get that kind of release, and it's pretty mental in New Zealand. Like this summer in New Zealand was every weekend there was a massive artist, like especially at in the current times, like where everywhere else is in lockdown, we're just having like massive gigs and festivals every weekend. It was pretty loose. Really?
So they're doing like crazy big drum and bass festivals?
Yeah, like every weekend. It's to the point now where it's fully, you nearly have to like it. Like if you don't like it, you're not going to be enjoying yourself. It's kind of it's pretty funny.
It's a wild scene, dude.
Yeah.
Like I was fucking fully taken back, Like in that shed at Farm Jam when Dizzy was playing, I was just like,
Diggy.
Yeah, Diggy. Yeah, I was just like, this is a fucking lot. Like this is a thing. Like there's a lot going on here right now.
Yeah, and I'd never even heard drum and bass until I moved to New Zealand. Like I'd heard a little bit here and there, but not like to the point where it was fully a culture of like, like you nearly are forced on listening to it. It's a weird thing. It's definitely not like, I guess you see it on social media. I'll put it to edits and stuff, and people think it's just a bit of a trend now because it's like a cool music coming in. But in New Zealand, it's like, it's a full blown thing. It's like being into, I don't know, tattoos or hot rods or footy or cricket, or like that's like a sport for people. It's pretty. I love it, because you go to something like that, and it's such a different atmosphere, but such a similar buzz of people that it's a nice like getaway from riding. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you know where else it's fucking huge? WA. True. Yep. And you know what? There's some like funny similarities, I guess, between WA and NZ. Is like it's super remote. A lot of like hard dudes that are loose dudes. Like there's some fucking similarities, I feel like a certain type of group and people, like that energy, like whatever it is. Yeah. And there's something too, man. Like, so, I mean, I'll compare it to like doing mushrooms alone and just chilling. You know, it's like you're getting that kind of, you're still getting something out of it. But like the real juice is when you're doing it in a certain environment. with certain people, and
Yeah.
there's like a vibe that goes along with it, and then it's like, oh, now I'm like doing mushrooms, like I'm really doing mushrooms, and everyone else is really doing mushrooms, and it becomes like this fucking amazing experience. But it's like you can do the same amount of the same mushroom in, you know, like just chilling or whatever, and it's not the same thing. So there is something to be said when you get the right group of people, the right sound, the right vibe, the right energy. Then it's like it's almost more than, you know, it's greater than the sum of its parts.
When you get all of the boys in the right zone with a D&B gig playing or a festival, it's like everyone gets in, especially I think in Queenstown, because all of our mates are riders and snowboarders. It's like, you know what they're like in the zone as a rider, and you don't see it any other time. And when drum and bass comes on and the boys are on, we're unstoppable, eh? There's nothing in anyone's way. It's like, if there's a bouncer that you're going straight past them, like it's pretty, I don't know, you know, there's nothing holding you back. It's like the atmosphere is there, and that's what's taking you.
Yeah, dude, it was it was definitely an experience. And then when we went and did Manji on the like a few weekends ago in WA, well, it's funny because I had Jaden Fabry with me for Farm Jam.
Yeah.
He was filming the trip. And then we were in the car. He says fuck all. Like he says like 4 words, dude, the whole trip. And then we're like driving. He's like, man, Queenstown's got a pretty good drum and bass scene, eh? And I was like, all right. I had no fucking idea. Most random thing the dude said, like barely talks. And I was like, oh, yeah, sick.
Sweet.
And then I was like, fuck me dead. This place does have a drum and bass. I was like, this is
I'd say
wild.
Even since you guys are gone, it's really progressed, eh? Like there was a bit of house music and stuff here and there, where it's now like if you go to any of the main bars at 11 o'clock at night, if there's not drum bass playing, you're leaving that bar and going to the next one, kind of thing.
That's so hectic.
It's pretty full on. Yeah, it's like you're guaranteed an insane night every weekend. If you want one, you can have the biggest night of your life if you want it. It's just sitting there. And it's kind of a reason why I moved live by myself, to escape it a bit, because it's like,
yeah,
it's nearly too much. You're like, whoa, it's pretty, like you could really get stuck in the trap there.
Yeah, you could like lose yourself in that that scene, eh?
It's an insane thing.
What's that doing, Rose? It's funny, man. Like you've spoke. I didn't know that that you're into drawing the way that you are and art. Do you like post any of that stuff ever, or?
Oh, not too into it. I'm more like, to be honest, I more draw jumps and and bike parts that I'm working on. Yeah. So I'm working on like quite a few different bike parts at the moment that I know no one's built before and made, and they're quite. Again, they go to the DHT thing. It's not because they're not thought of. It's because it's a completely different sport to what we're all used to. So a lot of it's more designing shit and drawing frames and different components, and then I'm drawing jumps to suit those components, and you'll see a bit of a, like I said, this project we just finished is a bit of a trial, so you will see a few of those things come into place and get a real light teaser of what I'm kind of leading towards. But yeah, a lot of it's more that kind of sense of it, eh? It's like I definitely draw and write a bit and just cool traditional hot rod tattoo shit, but most of it is just related to bikes and development and what I want to do.
What you seem like,
and I don't post it because I don't want anyone to know, because I want to save it for myself, kind of thing.
That's cool too.
Not in a greedy way, but it's like,
well, you want
I've got the vision so clear.
Impactful.
Yeah, I've got the vision so clear and how I want to present it that I just want to sit on it until I know it's the right time.
It's crazy, man. Like we're entering a time where you're like an artist. You know, you're like a Skepta in a way of, you've got your own philosophies around life. You've got your own philosophies around the way that you want to do things. You've got your own idea of like the world that you live in, and you want to show people the world that you live in. And you know what I mean? Like you're almost creating like this lens for people to look through. And I think that that's what a guy like Skepta's doing with his music. Like he's, you know, creating that like, I want to rap with this flow over this beat, and I want to deliver these lyrics, and I want to deliver this message, and I want people to feel this. Yeah. And it's like, you're doing that, you know, and like the way that you've lived your life, it's like, you're like the starving artist, you know, like you're the dude that has lived on 2-minute noodles and eggs and bread, and that's a fucking Van Gogh type character, you know, like that's a weird artist where it doesn't make sense to other people, but it makes sense to you, and that's kind of all that matters.
Fully, yeah. I think, I don't know, like majority of the time, if you don't see what I'm doing on Instagram or something, I'm probably like in the middle of nowhere and no phone reception building something weird to ride, and I don't usually share it because it's kind of just like my own zone, and it's like, I think that's where you really find the
true artist.
That's when I think of it like that. Yeah, I'm like, well, this is actually pretty full on. Like, I'm probably in a spot that is definitely not legal right now. I'm building stuff. You get in trouble, you're going to be in big trouble. It's like graffiti or something, and you kind of like, you're doing it completely for the passion and because you want kind of, you're there for yourself, and that's when you really find yourself. And I think that's when the beauty in anything really comes out of an artist, or when a good painting gets done or something, or a good song gets made, is when they're just doing their thing that's so weird to everyone else that it feels so right to you.
And do you feel like, have you thought about that analogy of like being an artist? Have you thought about it in that context before?
I definitely see it more like that than bike riding.
Yeah,
I don't see it as an athlete. I see it as a bike rider and showing, you know, I want to build. I see my riding and building as a combination. I don't really see myself as just a rider anymore. I see it as like, I'm going to build and ride, and that's one presentation. And I'm going to, like, it's mountain biking. I can build what I want and use the land to my advantage and showcase my riding on that fucking ribbon that I've created down the hill.
Yeah, dude. But it's so true, man. Like, these bike builds that we've been doing, it's like, I love the idea now of like getting an old bike and like making it new and putting like, you know, I'm getting some triple clamps made for a bike now so I can run like modern forks on an older bike, and, you know, just that sort of shit to me now is like, I don't know, it just feels good. Like I've got an idea in my head of like how I think it would be the most fun to do. Yeah. And then it's like, I almost want to do that more than, you know, I'd like have the best bike with the best this or the best that. It's like the
experimenting satisfaction of when it works and you're like, whoa, I just did that.
Dude, for sure. And the first taste of that I ever got was shaping a surfboard. True. Like, I didn't ride moto at all when I lived in California. Like, that whole 8 years, I probably rode like 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And I was just surfing flat out. And I had a guy help me. He was a friend of mine. And we made this surfboard together. Yeah. And I remember the first time I stood up on this surfboard, like, I changed, you know. I didn't really want to. Yeah. Like, that idea of how I was always the kid that wanted the best of everything and the best this and the coolest this and the coolest that. Yeah. And then I went from that guy in one day to just like wanting to ride my own shit.
Build yourself
Build
up.
my surfboard. You build by, like, I'm fucking not a mechanic's dick. And like, I fuck up most of the shit I try to build, but it still feels good for some reason, right. You know?
I think that the same thing comes from me and my upbringing. Like, dad's a surfboard shaper.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so like today I've been in his resin shed watching him resin a board all day, and it's like I've watched him do so many different resin tints and dyes and, I don't know, shaping of the boards, and I see it like I get so much inspiration from him sanding down a blank to me building a course. It's the exact same thing, and I think that's why I'm so invested into this whole side of riding now, is because like it's what I got brought up doing. I got brought up digging jumps with dad and watching him shape boards, and now I'm just trying to like, I'm not trying to, but I guess I've just been brought up to lead after him, and I'm just doing the exact same thing but in a bike version.
And that makes so much sense. Yeah. Like, that literally makes so much sense, because that's what you're doing. Like, you are trying to be an artist. And I look at Brandon Semenuk in the same way. Yeah. You know, I look at, but fuck, that being said, a lot of mountain bikers are like that.
Fully.
You know, like Tyler McCall with his jumps and like.
Yeah, I think a lot of the riders that aren't pure racers, that's really their mentality and what you see from them, because that is free ride, you know, they've made something out of themselves as an individual and stood out. And that's what's special about them to get where they are, kind of thing.
Well, dude, you're one of those special motherfuckers as well. And I'm so pumped we got to do this in the studio, face to face. I'm a fucking huge fan.
No,
and
I appreciate it,
I
dude.
can't wait to see everything that you've got going on. And anything you need from me, dude, I'll fucking do whatever.
I appreciate it, man. It's going to be good.
I really appreciate it.
You just have to stop stealing people's moto ramps by the sounds.
What's that? yeah. Man, fuck. We'll get there. Remy Morton, everybody.
Awesome.
I appreciate it. You're the fucking man.
Thanks, dude. Stoked.
Done.
Cool.
Bro, fuck, you're a legend.
Thanks heaps for that.
It's insane. That was fucking sick. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.